Chapter 1001. Two life and death servants were guarding the entrance of the cave. At this moment, there were some extremely painful and hysterical screams coming from the cave. The two life and death servants didn't have the slightest change in their expressions. It was as if they had experienced this scene countless times. Suddenly, there were some weak vibrations in the air. At this moment of surprise, these weak vibrations directly changed and became quite strong. Boom! Be careful! Sensing the incoming threat, the two of them stood up instantly. However, just as they stood up, they saw a bolt of lightning surging towards them. Boom! In an instant, this terrifying explosive force spread out. It directly blew up the surrounding ground. The intense explosion also released a huge amount of fire, which instantly trapped the two of them. Amidst the flames of the explosion, the two of them retreated rapidly. If not for this, two figures landed. It was Li Zongjio and Wan Yulan. Just now, Li Zongjio directly released a lightning from hundreds of meters away. Wan Yulan was also extremely worried about Li Zongjio's personality. He didn't even say a word and directly rushed up to fight fiercely. After Li Zongjio landed, without saying a word, he directly rushed into the fire and dust with the small black hammer in his hand. Boom! Under another loud noise, Wan Yulan saw a figure directly flew out. Half of his head was directly chopped off. Blood was constantly flowing out, and his body was already charred black. Obviously, he was burned like this under the power of the lightning just now. Boom! In the midst of the dust, there was another roar of explosion. The surrounding dust was directly blown away, and a powerful airwave spread out in all directions. This time, Wan Yulan saw clearly that one of the life and death servants was caught by Li Zongjio. Just now, Li Zongjio directly smashed the latter's body with his hammer. His head was still there, but the other half of his body was completely destroyed. The life and death servant's body is as hard as a mountain, yet it was beaten to such a state so easily. When Wan Yulan saw the miserable state of the two life and death servants, she was immediately shocked. She thought that it would be a tough battle, but she didn't expect that such a situation would occur. You must be Li Zongjio. The guard captain walked out of the ruins. 6 corpses lay at his feet. These 6 people had already lost their chance to live the moment they caught the eye of the guard captain. Li Zongjio did not care how many people the other party had killed. In terms of killing people, there was really nothing to compare with Li Zongjio. What Li Zongjio cared about was the fact that the others were not here. Since they were not here, he could only send these 3 people to heaven first. It seems that you still don't know who I am. Li Zongjio casually threw the corpse in his hand to the ground. Holding the black dragon hammer in his hand, he suddenly rushed forward and killed the guard captain. Seeing that Li Zongjio was the kind of person who didn't speak much, the guard captain smiled cruelly and activated his own strength. A domineering force condensed from his body and was instantly released. Facing the front, he punched out. This fist contained an extremely domineering force. The surrounding yuan power instantly condensed and formed a black energy vortex, which directly surrounded Li Zongjio. The terrifying movement of the attack had already made Wan Yulan feel a trace of fear. If one was sucked into this vortex, one's life would be lost instantly. Even if one's mental strength was strong, if one was sucked into this black vortex, everything would be devoured. But there were always exceptions. For example, the black dragon hammer in Li Zongjio's hand. Ever since the curse of the black dragon hammer was broken, Li Zongjio had never really displayed the true power of the black dragon hammer. At this moment, in this terrifying vortex, Li Zongjio's black dragon hammer suddenly erupted with a terrifying force. Suddenly, the force of thunder was like a spider web, instantly covering the entire vortex and forcibly breaking through it. Explode! Immediately, Li Zongjio waved the black dragon hammer in his hand twice in succession. Each time, it was almost as if he was resisting the terrifying pressure in the air, releasing this force. Boom! The two terrifying forces collided. Naturally, there was damage. Even Li Zongjio suffered a lot of backlash and took 2 steps back. On the other hand, the guard captain directly took more than 10 steps back. Finally, he fell to the ground on his butt. The ground where the two of them collided had completely collapsed, forming a deep crevice. Mountain-flipping golden seal. Li Zongjio had no intention of checking the opponent's condition. He immediately displayed this force, and immediately, a huge golden palm print fell towards the life and death servant. Bang! The guard captain's figure fled into the distance. However, he was once again injured by the aftermath of Li Zongjio's attack. After all, it was a Saint Stage Yuan skill. Wanna run? It was just a preliminary exchange, but the guard captain already knew that Li Zongjio's strength was not so easy to resist, so he wanted to leave this place quickly. Li Zongjio was about to give chase, but suddenly, the life and death servant, who had more than half of his body blown away, swung his blade towards Li Zongjio. Clang! The opponent's blade slashed Li Zongjio's neck. However, Li Zongjio's blade was directly shattered. Li Zongjio aimed at the head of the life and death servant and hammered it down. Bang! The hammer fell and completely smashed the head of the life and death servant. Li Zongjio's hand was also holding a pile of broken bones. In reality, as long as the head of these life and death servants were smashed, how could there be so many life and death servants? Did they really think that they were so awesome? In Li Zongjio's hands, who knows how many ancient devils he had killed? Why would he be afraid of you, who had only absorbed a little bit of the devil's power? Some unscrupulous people dared to be arrogant and unbridled in front of Li Zongjio. Looking in the direction that the last life and death servant had fled, Li Zongjio's brows furrowed. You escaped quickly, but where can you escape to in this place? In the sky, two huge figures were circling somewhere. After receiving the order, they directly swooped down in a direction. Black-winged blood shadow condor. After all, this was their home ground, and the black-winged blood shadow condor's speed was still very fast. Even if something happened in White Deer Manor, they could still make a trip back. This, Wan Yulan was originally prepared for a fierce battle. But seeing Li Zongjio rush down and kill two of the three life and death servants in less than 5 minutes, if the other one took the initiative to escape, it would be difficult for him to survive. Li Zongjio's strength was too terrifying. No wonder, the name of Evil Lord is not false. Chapter 1002. Wait a minute, when I was probing with my mental power, I heard that they were going to kill someone, huh? Li Zongjio looked at Wan Yulan and saw Wan Yulan taking out a picture from one of the bodies. The person in the picture was Qi Yanran. Obviously, these people not only wanted to kill Li Zongjio, but also wanted to kill Qi Yanran. Fuck! Li Zongjio immediately stomped the half-dead body under his foot into smithereens. The two black-winged blood shadow condors continued to pursue the escaping people. The average strength of these life and death servants was only at the 3rd grade Origin Emperor realm. The person who attacked just now was slightly stronger, but he was only at the 6th grade Origin Emperor realm. With these abilities, they wanted to behave atrociously in front of Li Zongjio. No one knew where these people got their courage from. Li Zongjio directly rushed to the Qi clan. At this moment, the Qi clan was under attack by these people. When the 5 life and death servants broke into the Qi clan's territory, it was as if they had entered a no-man's land. They easily killed the Qi clan's guards who came to stop them. The Qi clan's elders quickly set up a formation, but it was easily blocked by one of the 5 life and death servants. Go, summon the ancestral formation. The sudden appearance of these people made Qi Shaohun understand that he needed to treat them seriously. If they continued to kill, the Qi clan would soon be annihilated. Want to run? I'm not interested in playing with you. The elder Qi Feiyu turned around and wanted to open the ancestral formation, but the life and death servant directly struck him with a palm. Just this palm alone was enough to take elder Qi Feiyu's life. After all, the difference in strength was obvious. Whoosh! Bang! A beam of white light came from afar and dispersed the power. Qi Yanran, dressed in white, descended from the sky and blocked the Qi clan's elders. Seeing Qi Yanran appear, the rest of the people also showed a smile. You finally appeared. If you had come out earlier, your Qi clan wouldn't have lost so many people. The life and death servants immediately laughed. Another person made a move, and the two joined forces to force Qi Yanran. Be careful, I'll deal with one. Qi Xiaohun approached Qi Yanran and said. He was also very curious about the weapon in Qi Yanran's hand. He felt that he had seen it somewhere before. Leave it to me. Qi Yanran blocked Qi Xiaohun, who was about to attack. She waved the desolate heaven essence in her hand and shot it at the two of them. The whip formed from the desolate heaven essence was extremely painful when it struck a person's body. Bang bang bang. The three of them were locked in battle. Although the life and death servants were powerful, they did not dare to rashly receive Qi Yanran's desolate heaven essence. Qi Xiaohun and company saw Qi Yanran block the two experts by herself. They were also extremely shocked. Since when did Yanran have such good skills? This strength, when did he break through? Qi Xiaohun only felt that Qi Yanran's strength had broken through and become more powerful, but he didn't know to what extent Qi Yanran's strength had improved. Go! Even if it was a small team, there would still be a leader. The leader ordered and another person joined in to attack Qi Yanran. The addition of the three immediately increased the pressure on Qi Yanran. Moreover, the battle between the four of them immediately caused the surrounding fluctuations to become extremely dangerous. If one were to take the risk to barge in, they would be seriously injured if they were not careful. In such a crazy situation, even Qi Xiaohun did not dare to act rashly. The commotion is too big. Let's deal with her family. The fourth person also rushed out directly, and his purpose was not to fight with Qi Yanran. He never thought that Qi Yanran would have such ability. Killing Qi Xiaohun and company would definitely distract Qi Yanran and make her lose her strength. This was the effect he wanted. Family head, retreat. Seeing the fourth person rushing over, many elders of the Qi family also rushed forward and protected Qi Xiaohun behind them. Then all of you will die together. The life and death servant took out a triangular blade and stabbed it forward. How could Qi Xiaohun watch his family's elders die in front of him? He directly used his yuan force and pushed the elders in front of him away. Get out of the way. I will fight it out with him. Qi Xiaohun summoned his longevity tree original spirit. The longevity tree original spirit seemed to have transformed into a tray ant. It stretched out countless branches and wrapped around the person in front of it. Family head, you can't. This was a way to self-destruct. After trapping the enemy and self-destructing in such a way, the enemy would not be able to escape. At least, it could guarantee that both sides would perish together. You want to perish together with me? The life and death servant sneered and rushed into the trap set by Qi Xiaohun without hesitation. Boom! Suddenly, a lightning bolt struck down from the sky. It directly struck Qi Xiaohun. Qi Xiaohun's body was instantly paralyzed. The longevity tree's movement also became stiff. Seeing this, the life and death servant directly stabbed the triangular blade in his hand at Qi Xiaohun's chest. Ding! The Mitsubishi thorn seemed to have hit an iron plate, and a crisp sound of collision rang out. Ha! The life and death servant was stunned. When he looked at it, a figure appeared in front of him. The triangular blade in his hand was broken by a strange force. After it was broken, the figure stabbed the blade in his hand. The life and death servant quickly raised his hand to block. However, he was kicked in the chest and was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood. You're finally here. Qi Xiaohun's mouth was still trembling. His teeth were chattering. Next time, can you electrocute him? Li Zongjiu had intended to electrocute him. However, seeing Qi Xiaohun's self-destruct state, it seemed that he was almost ready. If he did not interrupt him, he might really explode. As long as his head did not explode, he could recover. Qi Xiaohun would have died for nothing. You can't die so casually now. Yanran, come back. Li Zongjiu said with a smile. Qi Yanran shook the desolate heaven essence in her hand and forced the three people in front of her back. She quickly returned to Li Zongjiu's side. At this moment, Qi Yanran was panting. Her body was dripping with sweat. The yuan power in her body had been depleted. Under such pressure, Qi Yanran had overdrawn her strength. It was not easy for her to last until now. Even Qi Yanran's body had a few hidden injuries. You're courting death. When Li Zongjiu saw the scars on Qi Yanran's arm, his eyes were already spewing out extremely terrifying flames. Captain, This person seems to be Li Zongjio. The other 4 people also returned to the captain's side. Li Zongjio? Good timing. Kill them all. Chapter 1003. Li Zongjio glanced at the people in front of him. He frowned. To be honest, it's really hard for me to think of a solution. To torture you. There was a faint chill in his tone. Even Qi Yanran could not help but feel a little cold. Obviously, Li Zongjio was really angry. The last time he was angry, it was because of the Ancient One. A mere Ancient One had dared to lay his hands on a member of the Li family. Everyone knew what had happened to the Ancient One, as well as the Gu family, who had protected the Ancient One. Everyone could not help but shudder at the thought of the tragic state the Gu family was in. You don't have to think about making an enemy out of the Black Canal Basilica. You won't live past tonight. As soon as he finished speaking, the 5 of them instantly moved as well. At the same time, they charged towards Li Zongjio. The 5 of them joined forces and could feel that the surrounding space was about to explode. With a wave of his hand, Li Zongjio brought the man before him into his blood-soul hell. If they were to fight in the Qi family, everything in the Qi family would be destroyed and there was a high chance that others would be hurt. When the 5 of them entered the blood-soul hell, they could feel the power of blood around them. At this moment, they were envious and excited because these people had climbed out of countless blood seas. The bloodier the scene and atmosphere, the more excited they were. They could treat this place as their home ground for battle. What an idiot! Your realm attribute is tailor-made for us. The leader of the life and death servants said. They had never seen such a situation. They could not believe that someone would be so suicidal. Is that so? Then you'll have to enjoy it. As soon as he finished speaking, behind Li Zongjio, 3 gigantic dragon silhouettes suddenly appeared. Holding the black dragon hammer, they sneered and stared at the people in front of them. When they saw this scene, the 5 life and death servants were obviously shocked. Soon, from the surrounding blood sea, many blood ghosts immediately crawled out. After Li Zongjio killed these blood ghosts, he directly buried them in the blood-soul domain and refined them into puppets that only had energy and could be controlled by Li Zongjio at will. After entering the blood-soul hell, there had never been anyone who could come out alive. The 5 of them immediately felt great pressure. Li Zongjio seemed to be more powerful than the legend said. After an hour, Li Zongjio appeared in the Qi family's courtyard. When the Qi family members saw him, they were all shocked. Because 6 people disappeared at the same time, only Li Zongjio appeared in the end. Wasn't the meaning of this very obvious? They're all dead? Qi Shaohun and the others looked at Li Zongjio and couldn't believe their eyes. The main reason was that Li Zongjio ended the battle too quickly. If the opponents wanted to escape, it wouldn't be a problem. However, in front of Li Zongjio, they still had no chance to escape. They're all enjoying it. Li Zongjio didn't actually do anything. He only crippled their cultivation, amplified their senses, and spared their lives. Every day, he let the countless blood ghosts gnaw on their bodies, and the next day, their bodies would be restored. It seemed to be an understatement, but when you really face it, you will feel the horror and despair. The feeling of wanting to die but not being able to do so will be vividly felt. These people came for me. I didn't expect to bring you trouble. Li Zongjio also felt sorry. After all, this matter was indeed caused by Li Zongjio. He didn't expect these people to directly target Qi Yanran. Fortunately, he came in time today. These people were all dead. If he came a little later, the consequences would be unimaginable. There is no family that didn't grow up in the wind and rain. This is nothing. Qi Shaohun said very frankly. Although this kind of thing was dangerous, it was also the danger that made people realize their own shortcomings. This way, they would work harder to improve their strength. They wouldn't sit here and think that they were infallible all day long. It was a good opportunity to let these people beat the Qi family. This matter, I will solve it as soon as possible. Li Zongjio said. How do you know they are here? Qi Yanran suddenly asked. When these people took action, they had directly isolated the Qi family's courtyard. This was a common method when they were carrying out tasks. If Li Zongjio wasn't nearby, it would be difficult for him to know what happened here. However, Li Zongjio came so quickly. Not good. Li Zongjio immediately remembered that Wan Yulan didn't follow them. If Wan Yulan's mental strength could detect the other party, they might have already detected Wan Yulan's traces. Now that Wan Yulan returned to the city, she would definitely be targeted by the other party. I will go first. You guys be careful, Li Zongjio said. Then he directly jumped up and immediately used his mental strength to search for Wan Yulan's whereabouts in the city. Soon, he found the traces left by Wan Yulan. Then, he quickly chased after her. Qi Yanran saw Li Zongjio's hurriedly leaving and knew that something must have happened to Li Zongjio. These people were so arrogant that they dared to openly attack her family. Black Canal Basilica, you have provoked the wrong people. Qi Yanran's eyes were filled with a cold light. Tonight, the Qi family had escaped a disaster, but the danger they encountered was self-evident. It seemed that the situation in the continent was getting more and more dangerous. They had to increase the strength of the family as soon as possible. Qi Shaohun was also worried sick. Although he was about to break through to the Origin Emperor realm, he was still a step away. The effect of the elixir was still suppressed in his body, and he didn't dare to make the final push. However, it seemed that if he continued to delay today, it would bring more trouble. I will go into seclusion for 3 days. All the family matters will be temporarily handled by the Great Elder. After saying that, Qi Shaohun went into seclusion. Qi Yanran also didn't leave the Qi family. After swallowing the elixir, she stayed in the Qi family to take care of things. There might be people coming back in the next few days, so she had to be on guard. In the Qi family, excluding those old ancestors who had yet to come out of seclusion. Currently, the strongest one was Qi Yanran. Today's battle also allowed Qi Yanran to show her terrifying strength, which made the elders of the Qi family feel refreshed. She was indeed Li Zongjio's woman. Chapter 1004. Wan Yulan's figure landed on the ground and immediately disappeared. The surrounding power also entered a state of concealment at this moment, allowing Wan Yulan's figure to completely blend into the surroundings. It seemed that after landing, she had directly disappeared. 2 figures chased after her. When they landed, they realized that they had lost track of Wan Yulan. Can you escape? One of them sneered and brazenly pulled out his sword. Immediately, an extremely frightening power erupted and slashed down in front of him. Boom! Instantly, the terrifying saber chi smashed the road and the houses in front of him into pieces as if they were rotten wood. A fierce gale passed through, ferocious as ever. Amidst the countless flying sand and rocks, a figure was finally forced out. The powerful force impacted Wan Yulan's defensive barrier, and also caused Wan Yulan's aura to be extremely chaotic. Her figure quickly retreated, wanting to escape into the distance. Who would have thought that another figure would appear behind him? The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, sandwiched Wan Yulan. You can't escape, right? How dare a member of the Wan family do something against the Xingyan dynasty? Your Wan family will be exterminated. The life and death servant recognized Wan Yulan. After all, these people were the focus of their attention, and even needed to be carefully monitored. In fact, there were even a few times when they were ready to take action. After all, how could the Black Canal Basilica not know the intentions of Wan Yonggong and the others? It was just that they didn't have the opportunity. Now that Wan Yulan had taken the initiative to come to their door, it gave them an ironclad evidence. After returning, they could immediately suppress the Wan family. Wan Yulan's eyes didn't have the slightest hint of panic. The 2 in front of her were 3rd-grade primitive emperors. If they were to fight under normal circumstances, Wan Yulan could barely escape from the hands of one of them. Now that the 2 of them had joined hands, the chances of her escaping were very small. Unless she used a secret weapon. But that was only used as a last resort. Moreover, Wan Yulan, who had escaped along the way, had left behind countless traces of signals. It would only take a moment for reinforcements to arrive. He did not panic at all. Although she couldn't completely leave her life in someone else's hands, Wan Yulan felt that he would definitely be the one to do it. I advise you all to flee quickly. Otherwise, you may not even be able to return to the Haika dynasty. Wan Yulan looked at the 2 of them and said indifferently. However, in their eyes, Wan Yulan was just pretending to be calm. I've heard that the women of the Wan family all have short lives. Today, I'm going to enjoy how short your life is. Using women's blood to cultivate would be even more beneficial to them. What's more, this was the blood of a spirit master. It would be a waste to kill it. Just as the two of them were about to make their move, Wan Yulan laughed and said to the air, "You're here." The two life and death servants sensed that there was no movement. "Trying to scare us. Go." The two of them rushed towards Wan Yulan without hesitation. Who knew what tricks this woman would play? It was better to take her down first. Only then would they be more secure. After the two of them rushed up, they found that Wan Yulan was actually standing still. The scene was a little strange. However, the two of them still slashed towards Wan Yulan's head. Boom! Boom! Two lightning bolts fell from the sky. The emergence of the lightning lit up half of the sky. One of the life and death servants saw a shadow on the ground flashing past. However, the lightning had already locked onto them. There was no chance for them to escape. They could only use all their strength to block the attack. Bang! Bang! The two of them flew backwards. Their bodies were charred black. However, under the suppression of the two of them, they quickly returned to normal. Looking in front of them, a young man stood in front of them, holding a small black hammer in his hand. The lightning just now was summoned by this young man. Another one came to die. The two of them looked at each other. Although the lightning just now was powerful, it wasn't that easy to kill them. "Are you okay?" Li Zongjio looked back at Wan Yulan, who looked a little embarrassed. This was probably the difference in strength. With Wan Yulan's strength, facing the two of them, the only way out was to escape. However, just now, Li Zongjio easily dealt with the four life and death servants. Wan Yulan had always thought that besides alchemy, the gap between her and Li Zongjio should not be too big. Even in alchemy, Wan Yulan was not weak. It was just that she was not as outstanding as Li Zongjio. She spent more energy on cultivating her mental strength. However, looking at Li Zongjio now, there was almost nothing that the latter could not do. He was already an almost invincible existence. As long as Li Zongjio was given time, as long as he could continue to live, there would be a supreme being in this world sooner or later. This supreme being was naturally Li Zongjio. Unfortunately, what Wan Yulan did not know was that in his previous life, Li Zongjio had already reached the supreme being realm. Moreover, he was at the peak of the supreme being realm. He was invincible in the world. "I'm fine. You have to be careful." Wan Yulan shook her head and said, after seeing Li Zongjio, she was willing to let go of the stone that was hanging in her heart. Even if it was someone else who came, Wan Yulan did not dare to be at ease. Such a psychological change also made Wan Yulan puzzled. How can this be? How can I have a sense of dependence on others? Wan Yulan thought in her heart. This kind of mood was really too strange. Li Zongjio looked at the two life and death servants. "Including the two of you, there are a total of 10. How many people like you are there? Let them come together, so that I don't have to find them one by one." Li Zongjio said indifferently. 10 people? How did this kid know their number? Li Zongjio's words surprised the two of them. Could it be that this kid was actually bluffing, or was it just a guess? "How do you know the number of 10? At the beginning, I killed 2 in the suburbs and 1 escaped. Just now, I killed 5 in the Chi family. Including the 2 of you, isn't that 10? So, there are only 10 of you in total." Li Zongjio looked at the 2 in front of him. "Alright, you 2 can go to hell first." Immediately, Li Zongjio waved his hand and brought the 2 of them into the blood soul hell. Like the people who had just started, the 2 of them were also excited. But soon, the 2 of them could not be excited anymore. 5 figures were trapped on top of a blood wall in front of them. Countless blood ghosts were tearing at their flesh and gnawing at them. Blood was dripping, but the flesh that was bitten off quickly grew back. This kind of living pain did not stop. Most importantly, these 5 people were the life and death servants. Chapter 1005. The situation in front of them had already scared them out of their wits. They had been vicious and merciless for so many years, and had long made a name for themselves. They had seen all kinds of ruthless people, but the current situation was clearly about to teach them a lesson. In other words, they had never seen such a situation before. There are 2 seats next to it. They're reserved for you. Li Zhongjio's figure appeared. Without saying a word, he waved his hand and took away their weapons. The blood ghosts in the blood soul hell completely engulfed them. A moment later, 2 more figures appeared on the blood wall. Obviously, at the beginning, they were still able to retain some consciousness. But later, they would rather have no meaning now. They would rather have their souls scattered than continue to stay in such a place. Every second was like 10,000 years of torture. Li Zhongjio left the blood soul hell. Wan Yulan, on the other hand, found a place to hide first. She did not immediately leave, nor did she immediately enter a state of healing. If she discovered that Li Zhongjio had been killed in the end during the process of healing, she would definitely be killed. Wouldn't that be terrible? He wouldn't even have a chance to escape. Therefore, Wan Yulan maintained a vigilant state. When she saw Li Zhongjio appear, she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. The moment she heaved a sigh of relief, a wave of dizziness immediately swept over her. Immediately, Wan Yulan lost her balance and fainted. Li Zhongjio supported her and checked her condition. He found that Wan Yulan's condition was not serious. It was just that she had overdrawn her mental strength and was highly nervous, which caused her to collapse. Another woman. Looking at the unconscious Wan Yulan, Lin Fan felt a chill run down his spine. No matter how ruthless and cold Li Zhongjio was, he could not just throw Wan Yulan to the ground. In the end, Li Zhongjio could only bring her back first. He brought Wan Yulan to the White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao saw that his young master had brought back another woman. Find someone to settle her down. Li Zhongjio handed Wan Yulan to Xiao Zhao. Young master, she's from the Haika dynasty. Just settle her down. She will recover on her own. Yes, young master. Xiao Zhao hurriedly asked someone to carry Wan Yulan away. The White Deer Manor was now vast, with more than 100 houses in the 4 courtyards. Just the number of guest rooms exceeded 2,000. After all, the White Deer Manor wouldn't be so simple in the future. When the time came, there would definitely be a lot of hangers-on coming to the manor. The so-called guests were idle cultivators. When they could not afford to support themselves, they would seek refuge from other forces and use their abilities to exchange for some benefits. In fact, the only proper guest in the White Deer Manor was Nangong Wuji because he was invited by Li Zhongjio and given some benefits. There was also Hong Shisan. This old man was not bad. Anyway, he was able to live until now because of Li Zhongjio's help in avenging him. Although the Xinyuan sect was still around and had not been destroyed, sect Master Gong Wuliang had already died in Li Zhongjio's hands. Li Zhongjio had already taken his revenge. There was no need to massacre the entire Xinyuan sect. Moreover, if they rashly attacked the sect, the situation would be uncertain. After all, a sect was a sect. Li Zhongjio would not easily make a move unless he had no other choice. Back then, the Ardent Earth sect was really courting death. Therefore, Li Zhongjio taught them a lesson. The lesson resulted in the destruction of the sect. This lesson was enough for them to remember for a lifetime. In this lifetime, after handing the person over to Xiao Zhao, Li Zhongjio did not rest. Li Zhongjio had obtained accurate information from the person from the Bloody Soul Hell. A total of 10 people had come this time. The strongest one was the guard captain who had escaped just now. Since he was already here, of course, he had to properly entertain this guard captain. The Black-Wind Blood Shadow Condor summoned him in his mind. Li Zhongjio quickly locked onto the location. This kid was really good at hiding. He was actually hiding in a rock cave under a river. Fortunately, the Black-Wind Blood Shadow Condor was also a meta beast that was familiar with water. The 2 Black-Wind Blood Shadow Condors had completely surrounded the person. Let's throw him out first. Li Zhongjio's figure was in the air as he stared at the river below. After receiving the order, the Black-Wind Blood Shadow Condor immediately launched an attack excitedly. Ever since they had arrived at the Sacred Flame Royal City, although these meta beasts had been eating and drinking well, they had not fought for too long. Hence, their bones were inevitably a little stiff. To these meta beasts, this kind of bloody battle was the most enjoyable. Occasionally, they would be injured to stimulate their bloodlust. Beep! A clear and loud cry that was filled with penetrating power rang out. The river below suddenly exploded into a huge wave that was a few hundred meters tall. When the wave soared into the sky and fell back down, it turned into terrifying icicles that instantly fell down. It was as if countless cannonballs had been shot into the water. Bang, bang, bang. The guard captain, who was recovering in the water, immediately felt the earth shaking and the undercurrent surging. At the same time, there were countless icicles flying towards his body. This made the guard captain rather nervous. "I've been discovered." The guard captain rushed out. When he saw the two black-winged blood shadow condors glaring at him in the sky, he was enraged. "It's you two bastards. Today, I'll cripple you." Immediately, the guard captain, who was dressed in black, rushed into the sky. He used his vigorous yuan power to fight with the black-winged blood shadow condors. The black-winged blood shadow condors were of the wind and ice attributes. The two meta beasts continuously spat out waves of cold air. However, the guard captain was after all stronger. He raised his hand and blocked it. The black-winged blood shadow condors also continuously ate the guard captain's fists. The terrifying power directly sent the two black-winged blood shadow condors flying and smashed onto the ground. The two meta beasts fought even more fiercely. Even though they were already vomiting blood and their wings were broken, they still continued to pounce on the guard captain. They continued to pester the latter. The guard captain also suffered some serious injuries. His body had already been scratched by the sharp claws of the black-winged blood shadow condors. However, these injuries were nothing to him. "All of you back off. It's been half a day and you can't even deal with a piece of trash." Li Zongjio saw that the black-winged blood shadow condors were almost done pestering them. If this went on, there would probably be some injuries that were difficult to recover from. Minor injuries were not a problem, but if their origin was damaged, then Li Zongjio would have to spend a lot of energy to heal the injuries of these two fellows. That was really too troublesome. "It's you." The guard captain of the Death Guard saw Li Zongjio appear. He immediately opened his eyes wide. Only then did he recall that there were two primitive emperor-level origin beasts in Li Zongjio's White Deer Manor. These must be the two origin emperors. Why didn't he think of it earlier? "You don't have to run anymore. Gather with your companions." Li Zongjio waved his hand and released the blood soul hell, sucking the guard in. Chapter 1006. In less than a night's time, the so-called sharp knife of Black Canal Basilica had been completely broken in the hands of Li Zongjio. Such a team of 10 was so easily defeated by Li Zongjio. Haika Dynasty, Black Canal Basilica. These life and death servants would wear a life bead on them before they left to carry out a mission. The life bead was not very useful, but it could retain the feedback of the status of life. Even if they were in two different places, they could quickly know the situation of the casualties. It seems that the situation is not very good. 2 of them have already died. The Bishop of Black Canal Sacred Hall looked at the 10 life origin beads in the cabinet in his hand. 2 of them had already been extinguished, while the remaining 8 beads were slightly dimmer than before. But there are at least 8 of them. It shouldn't be a problem to deal with Li Zongjio. I don't know what will happen if these people are released. Although they are crazy, I don't think they will cause too much trouble. At least on the level of the Shengyan dynasty, they will definitely not be affected. The Shengyan dynasty has a genius like Li Zongjio, so it will be difficult for them to calm down. It's a good opportunity to use our hands to destroy Li Zongjio. Yes, let's just wait for the news. Other than counting the offerings that were sent up from below and sitting down to cultivate, the bishops had nothing else to do. Most of the affairs of the dynasty were handled by the imperial court, but if it involved money, manpower, everything had to be reported to the Black Canal Basilica. Little did they know that these people were still enjoying the peace in the Haika dynasty. However, Li Zongjio had already taken care of all the life and death servants that had been sent out. However, these people were completely unaware. Shengyan dynasty. Luoxia City. When Tianfei arrived with the Skyblaze Lion and Skyblaze Python, Li Tianqing could not believe his eyes. The Skyblaze Lion and the Skyblaze Lion were also staring at each other. This is the legendary Skyblaze lion. Li Tianqing rubbed his eyes. He wanted to go up and pat the Skyblaze lion's paw, but he dared not. The Heavenly Blaze Lion King technique that Li Tianqing cultivated was derived from the Heavenly Blaze Lion King. Someone had created such a primordial technique by imitating it. Li Tianqing couldn't believe that he would be able to see Yi Futian in person one day. This was probably how he felt. He felt like he was meeting a saint. How dignified was the Skyblaze lion? How could it be touched by a mere human? However, Li Zongjio had already set up this mental command. No matter how arrogant or powerful one had to bow their heads in front of Li Zongjio, because Li Tianqing was Li Zongjio's father. Hence, the Skyblaze lion could not help but raise its paw and touch Li Tianqing's. Oh, it's real. This big guy is really powerful. Li Tianqing was so excited that he was spinning on the spot. He looked extremely excited. It was as if he was a child. How old are you? You're still like a child. Lady Shen walked out and saw Li Tianqing's excited look. How is Zongjio now? How is he doing in the Sacred Flame Imperial City? Did anyone bully him? Go back and tell him that we don't have to go to the Imperial City. It's fine as long as he's fine. Lady Shen said to Tianfei. You bitch, what are you thinking? Zongjio is so capable now. Of course, he has to bring our Li family to greater heights. Li Tianqing was instantly unhappy. His son was so promising. Of course, he had to lead the family to greater heights. That way, he would not let his ancestors down. Li Tianqing's father also had such hopes for Li Tianqing back then. However, Li Tianqing was not as capable as Li Zongjio. To be able to lead the Li family to the current situation, Li Tianqing had already done his best. He did not expect that such a terrifying monster like Li Zongjio would appear. Of course, he had to cherish it. You heartless man. You can't bear to see your child suffer outside. Lady Shen said angrily. What's wrong with a man suffering a little? Who doesn't suffer? Since you're here, you should stay here for a few more days. Tell us about Zongjio's recent situation. Let's have a few more drinks tonight. That's settled. Li Tianqing pulled Tianfei over directly. He did not allow any refusal. Tianfei was an orphan since he was young. He was brought back to the Xianyuan sect. Now that he was betrayed by the sect, he had long been disheartened by the sect. However, working under Li Zongjio, the master and madam treated him like family. This was from the bottom of his heart. It also made Tianfei feel incomparably touched. Although the Li family was not the family that raised him, it was a place that truly treated him with sincerity. Tianfei secretly swore in his heart that even if he died, he would protect the Li family. The Skyblaze Lion King and the Skyblaze Python King's bodies were huge, so it was not easy to put them down. Not to mention the appearance of the Sky Hell Python. They had been raising their heads and staring at the golden-winged blue-tailed eagle in the backyard. The golden-winged blue-tailed eagle swayed its tail gently. In the backyard, it did not dare to move at all. It did not even dare to breathe in the face of the two Origin Emperor Realm meta beasts. Although their master was Li Zongjio. However, the difference in levels was simply too great. How would it dare to act recklessly? After a discussion, they also let the two meta beasts live in the Wuxue Alchemy sect. The Wuxue Alchemy sect's territory was big enough. It was best to let the two meta beasts stay there. Moreover, the environment was more suitable. If something happened in Luoxia City, with the speed of the two meta beasts, it would not take long for them to arrive. The Wuxue Alchemy sect welcomed these two great gods. From top to bottom, no one dared to make a sound. The current Wuxue Alchemy sect had not changed much. It was just that they were more careful and fawning on the Li family. If they did not fawn on the Li family within a radius of 10,000 miles, they could only wait to be destroyed. If they did not have this little bit of foresight, they would not be able to do anything. If the Li family was unhappy, no one would be willing to do business with them. Not only would they destroy your family, but they would also cause you to close down. Invisible forces were the most terrifying. The Li family gradually did not have to worry about food and clothing. The most important thing now was to improve their strength. At the same time, Some distant relatives of the Li family who had left also gradually returned to the Li family. After all, the Li family had existed for more than 500 years. Some of those who weren't doing too well basically came back directly, causing the Li family's reputation to gradually grow. Of course, for these people who returned, they also needed to be carefully managed. Otherwise, the Li family that had developed with great difficulty would be dragged down by these people sooner or later. Chapter 1007. White Deer Manor. Under the night sky, a figure quietly landed. As soon as the figure landed, it was completely hidden in the darkness. It was like a little wild cat. Over the past few days, Zhang Jin had been keeping a close eye on White Deer Manor. Coincidentally, Li Zongjio seemed to be in trouble today, so Zhang Jin personally made a move. White Deer Manor was deathly silent. It was obvious that they were in a state of alert. Moreover, there was a lot of commotion in the city at night. It was obvious that some experts were fighting. Although Buried Gold didn't investigate the situation in detail, he knew that Li Zongjio wasn't in the White Deer Manor. At the same time, it seemed that the few meta beasts were not in the manor either. Zhang Yin and Zhang Tong had disappeared. Therefore, Zhang Jin was extremely curious about White Deer Manor. The two of them might have been captured and were most likely trapped in White Deer Manor. Therefore, Zhang Jin took advantage of this free time to investigate. With Zhang Jin's ability, it was easy for him to enter such a manor. All the guards could be said to exist in name only. They did not notice anything at all. Although he was confident in his heart, he did not relax in the slightest in the enemy's territory. There was no movement in the outer layer. Zhang Jin immediately walked into the depths of White Deer Manor. When he passed by a garden, Zhang Jin immediately felt that something was wrong. White Deer Manor's guard headquarters. Immediately, the alarm went off, and many people reacted. Someone had actually invaded the White Deer Manor, and in a moment, everyone stood up. In the 8 trigrams garden in the central courtyard, Liu Pei roared. The guards in the manor were arranged from the military camp, so they reacted quickly. This kind of security work was naturally more reassuring to leave to one's own people. Coincidentally, Li Yun was also cultivating in the manor. During the day, Li Yun would appear in the underground black market and deal with matters in the Ghost King Palace. Generally, Li Yun didn't need to deal with anything personally. She only needed to give instructions to her subordinates. For example, last time, regarding the Hua family, Li Yun just gave a simple order and immediately passed it down. Then, a letter from Ghost King Palace was sent directly to the Hua family. The Hua family didn't dare to move at all. It was so fierce that it was unimaginable. The reputation of the Ghost King Palace seemed to be quite impressive. Someone actually broke into the maze formation. It must be an intruder. Li Yun opened the disk array. This 8 trigrams secret sect formation was jointly researched and created by Li Yun and Nangong Wuji. Using the characteristics of the surrounding buildings and the attributes of the plants, they arranged this maze formation to trap the enemy. Once the enemy was trapped in this maze formation, they would keep going back and forth. No matter what, they wouldn't be able to get out of this maze formation. They would become fish on the chopping block. Xiao Zhao soon received a report from his subordinates that someone had broken into the manor. Immediately, Xiao Zhao came to the 8 trigrams maze formation under the protection of Liu Pei and the others. He happened to see Zhang Jin, who was dressed in black, moving stealthily. Zhang Jin's every move was quite covert. He tiptoed and his body was very light. However, he didn't know that all of Zhang Jin's actions had been exposed to the eyes of others. They saw everything clearly. Quickly take him down, Li Yun said. Her subordinates were ready to take action, but Xiao Zhao stopped them. Wait a minute. We don't know how strong this person is. Since he dares to break into the White Deer Manor at night, he must not be simple. Quickly go and get Elder Nangong. Xiao Zhao also had the authority to control the primitive emperor-level meta-beasts. At this moment, he also knew that the 2 meta-beasts and Li Zongjio were outside. In the entire White Deer Manor, Nangong Wuji was the strongest person. All right. Li Yun nodded. Liu Pei immediately sent someone to get Nangong Wuji. The rest of the people were lying in ambush outside. They didn't act rashly. He seems to have realized that something is wrong. Li Yun tried to change the contents of the 8 trigrams maze formation again so that Nangong Wuji wouldn't be able to tell what was real and what was false. He would be wandering around the formation. Even if he wanted to see the flaws of the formation, it wouldn't be that easy. Li Yun also added some other things to the formation. As for these formations, they were obtained from the remnants of the formation scroll that Li Zongjio had given her. As her experience in formations increased, Li Yun also realized the power of the remnants of the formation scroll that Li Zongjio had given her. It was so terrifying. Oh no, I'm afraid we've fallen into a trap. Zhang Jin, who was lying in ambush, also stopped at this moment. When he was moving, he didn't even destroy the grass and trees around him. He tried his best to protect the integrity of the surroundings. This was the style of a top-notch expert. He came and went without a trace, leaving no trace at all. Little did they know that Zhang Jin was acting like a stage play. All of their movements were exposed right under their noses. Zhang Jin finally realized that something was wrong. It was because he suddenly realized that the garden was too big. It was fortunate that he only realized it now. We can't stay here for long. Retreat. When Elder Zhang Jin sensed that something was wrong, he immediately wanted to escape. Zhang Jin's figure instantly flew backward. When Zhang Jin's figure sped up, the power around him also sped up. The changes in the grass and trees were also completely seen by Zhang Jin. Bang! The changes in the surroundings directly sent Zhang Jin flying. Li Yun controlled the formation and urged the power of the formation to sweep towards Zhang Jin. At the same time, there seemed to be a fog appearing under her feet. This fog contained strong poison. No matter how strong one's cultivation was, if one breathed in too much of it, they would directly faint. This was because Li Yun got these formulas from Li Zongjio. They were specially used to deal with these experts and could make them lie down one after another. Damn it! Roaming dragon's stab. Zhang Jin exclaimed. Then, his figure transformed into a dragon and suddenly rushed forward. Rumble! With a loud bang, Zhang Jin directly smashed a hole in the formation. Originally, there was a rockery in front of him. However, Zhang Jin, who was a second-level expert, smashed through the rockery and broke free. Inescapable net. Liu Pei gave the order. The guards under him immediately used Raging Dragon capturing flames. Bang, bang, bang. More than 10 explosions rang out in succession. Then, the fire nets flew out one after another. The second-generation Raging Dragon capturing flames contained a rather strong fire net. Ordinary Yuan monarchs would have to expend a lot of energy to break free from it. Even before they could break free, they would have already been blasted into smithereens by the other party. However, the moment these fire nets shot out, they did not cause any trouble for Zhang Jin. This was because their speed was really too slow. Zhang Jin very easily escaped from these attacks. Since you are already here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? An old voice rang out in the sky above White Deer Manor. It seemed to have turned into rolling thunder. Nangong Wuji. The person who had been tearing down and building things in White Deer Manor all day had finally shown his strength at this moment. An 8th-grade primitive emperor was enough to look down on the heavens. Yet, he was still doing this kind of hard work in such a place. It was simply unbelievable. Zhang Jin felt the powerful strength of the other party and was slightly surprised. However, so what if he was an 8th-grade primitive emperor? He still could not do anything to him. How unlucky! Zhang Jin immediately stomped his foot and his body turned into countless black lights in an instant, rushing in all directions. Nangong Wuji also waved his hand. The power of the primitive emperor realm immediately shattered the black lights in front of him. However, one of the lights was extremely strong. With a gentle touch, it flew out. It suddenly accelerated. Chapter 1008. After the light accelerated, it disappeared without a trace. Even Nangong Wuji could not catch up with it. Isn't his speed of escape a bit too fast? Nangong Wuji looked in the direction of the light in surprise. Of course, if he caught up with the light, he might be able to gain something. However, if the light turned back halfway, or if there were other ambushes in the surroundings, it would be a very dangerous situation for White Deer Manor. Therefore, in order to make sure nothing went wrong, Nangong Wuji would not leave White Deer Manor easily. At least, he would not wander around when there was no other force. I have never seen or heard of this person's movement skill in the Xingyan dynasty. It is very likely that he is from another dynasty. Nangong Wuji was a veteran expert who had been in Jianghu for many years. Naturally, he could tell what kind of movement skill this person had. He is not from the Xingyan dynasty? Xiao Zhao frowned. Recently, Li Zongjiu had ordered to investigate the movements of the Haiku dynasty. Obviously, he was very interested in the movements there. Since the mysterious expert was not from the Xingyan dynasty, it was very likely that he was from the Haiku dynasty. He is too arrogant. How dare he sneak into White Deer Manor? As long as he is in Monarch City, I will definitely catch him. Li Yun was obviously very angry. These people from the Haiku dynasty, it was fine if they said that they were from another dynasty, but they thought that this was their home. Did they think that the people of the Li family had no temper and could be bullied by them? My formation needs to be repaired as well. Elder Zhang Jin easily smashed a hole in the formation. This showed how strong the opponent was. Of course, the formation also had some flaws, which led to such a situation and result. In the sky, the three figures returned directly. They landed on White Deer Manor. Li Zongjiu landed and came to the front of the crowd. The black-winged blood shadow eagle returned to its nest to recuperate. When it came back, it had already given them a few elixirs. What happened? These people were all gathered together, and the atmosphere was extremely chaotic. He had only gone out for a short while. Could it be that he had been ambushed? Li Zongjiu could not help but frown. Xiao Zhao also reported the matter. If that's the case, then the people who came should be from the ancient Zong family of the Haiku dynasty. They're the two people who escaped earlier. Tai Fai naturally went to the inn to set up an ambush. He wanted to control these people and not let them escape, but all of them were injured. He didn't even see the other party's shadow. Later on, they naturally found these people. There were a total of 4 people, and one of them was a disabled person. Don't worry, young master. Xiao Zhao will definitely find him. Okay, go ahead. After dismissing the crowd, Li Yun also said a few words to Li Zongjiu before she left. Li Yan was very obsessed with the cultivation of formations. Coupled with her talent, she liked to immerse herself in it very much. Moreover, the other party had forcefully created a huge flaw in the 8 trigrams maze formation. If they wanted to, they could easily escape from the formation. It might be able to deal with ordinary thieves, but it was unrealistic to deal with experts of this level. It was because of this that she had to seize the time to cultivate and research it. After all the formations in White Deer Manor were set up by Li Yun. Out of Li Zongjiu's trust, he naturally had to do this well. Did you offend the ancient Zong family of the Haiku dynasty? Nangong Wuji looked at Li Zongjiu with a solemn expression. It was clear that this was not a small matter. In Nangong Wuji's eyes, if he was the slightest bit careless, he would be in big trouble. The name of the ancient Zong family had appeared in books a long time ago. He did not expect that he would be lucky enough to meet such a legendary family leader. It was unbelievable. It was as if he was watching a character walk out of a book. Even Nangong Wuji had never come into contact with anyone from the ancient Zong family, but he had just fought against them. However, based on how the person had fled, Nangong Wuji did not fear him at all. He had escaped with ease, and Nangong Wuji did not even have the chance to catch up to him. If he had fought against him head-on, it was hard to say who would have won. Nangong Wuji was originally quite confident, but when he learned that the person was from the ancient Zong family, he gradually felt an invisible pressure in his heart. It was the influence of his reputation. Why are you panicking? Li Zongjiu cast a glance at Nangong Wuji. Who's panicking? Why would I panic? When I, Nangong Wuji, roamed the world, you weren't even born yet. I've seen everything. Nangong Wuji said proudly. This was the only thing he could slightly suppress Li Zongjiu. Otherwise, he would not be able to compete with Li Zongjiu. At that moment, Nangong Wuji realized that if he went up against Li Zongjiu, Only death would await him. Fortunately, Nangong Wuji was born late. If he had been born in the same era as Nangong Wuji might not have been able to compete with him. Get ready. After some time, we'll be going to the Haika dynasty. Li Zongjiu cast a glance at Nangong Wuji. What? Going to the Haika dynasty? Why are we going there? Panic instantly appeared in Nangong Wuji's eyes, and there was a look of disbelief on his face. He wondered if Li Zongjiu was bragging or trying to scare him. I forgot to tell you. Not only did the ancient Zong family send someone to assassinate me, but the Black Canal Basilica from the Haika dynasty also has a grudge against me. Li Zongjiu shrugged and said. He seemed to have an innocent look on his face. It was as if he was the one who provoked him first. When he heard about the Black Canal Basilica, Nangong Wuji froze. Nangong Wuji froze on the spot. You mean, Black Canal? Black Canal Basilica? Nangong Wuji widened his eyes. When he was young, he was not afraid of anything. He even went to the wasteland to increase his strength. Later on, he suffered a setback and hid in the sacred flame royal city to heal his injuries. However, Nangong Wuji had always known what kind of existence the Black Canal Basilica was. It was an existence on the same level as the royal family of the Xingyan dynasty. Why would Nangong Wuji travel thousands of miles to get rid of it? I say, you can't be serious. Are you really going to deal with the Black Canal Temple? Are you kidding me? Don't worry. I'll pay you handsomely. When I come back, I'll make pills for you. Make pills? When Nangong Wuji heard this condition, his determined expression immediately turned into one of hesitation. You are also. Chapter 1009. Zhang Jin, who had escaped, was terrified. After all, there were too many unexpected things. Moreover, he had been in the enemy's formation for such a long time without realizing it. It also made Zhang Jin feel the hidden strength of the Li family. It was extremely terrifying, and it was definitely not as simple as it seemed. This Li Zongjiu is poisonous. Zhang Jin brought Zhang Tai, and the two of them quietly left Sacred Flame Royal City. This mission was not easy, so they had to go back and regroup first. If they really could not do it, then they would go to the Chen family again and ask them to increase the price. Just this trip alone had cost them so many people. For the ancient Zong family, it was also a huge sacrifice. This mission was a huge loss. As for Zhang Yin and Zhang Tong, who had been captured, they were probably dead. After all, with this kind of thing happening, it was not strange for the enemy to want to kill the two of them with their strength. The Zong family left Sacred Flame Royal City. Xiao Zhao and Li Yun used their power and practically turned the Xingyan dynasty upside down several times, but they still could not find any trace of these people. In the end, the Li family in Sunset City sent them a secret letter. Only then did they know that the ancient Zong family had left the Xingyan dynasty. Although they managed to escape, it was still better than letting these people stay in the city and wait for an opportunity to attack. The problem of the life and death servants was also solved. There was no problem at all. It was settled so easily. This was also something that Wan Yulan did not expect. Li Zongjiu was so strong, and he seemed to be fearless in Sacred Flame Royal City. In fact, Li Zongjiu did not gather too much power, and he had not really attacked yet. The entire Sacred Flame Royal City was quiet for a month. When Wan Yulan found out that Li Zongjiu's White Deer Manor was recruiting guests, she immediately signed up. With the latter's strength, it was easy for him to become a guest of White Deer Manor. As for the price, it was handled by Xiao Zhao. As long as the price was set, White Deer Manor would be able to pay for it. Within a month, Li Zongjiu had also refined many pills for the Qi family, but recently, the Qi family seemed to have encountered some trouble. Last time, Li Zongjiu had humiliated the Hua family. Originally, after Li Yun intervened, the Hua family gave face to the Ghost King Palace. After all, the Ghost King Palace was specially approved by the royal family. Even the Hua family, who controlled the Green Dragon Army, did not dare to act recklessly. As for why the Ghost King Palace had such power, it was hard to say. But this time, the Qi family had recently purchased a primordial stone mine at a high price. However, this primordial stone mine was a confluence mine and overlapped with another mine. The other family's power was not small either. Most importantly, this family was related to the Hua family by marriage, and the surrounding area was under the jurisdiction of the Green Dragon Army. When something happened, the Green Dragon Army naturally took the initiative to intervene. If the Green Dragon Army was unhappy, they would directly seal off the area around the mine and declare that this was a secret area. No matter how powerful one would not be able to enter. This was how arrogant and overbearing they were. Even if one went to appeal, it would take a lot of time and energy just to go through the whole process. Although they could not directly take away one's mining rights, they could set countless obstacles on the way and take one's life at any time. The Qi family was a little busy recently. Moreover, they had never thought of relying on Li Zongjiu's power to strengthen themselves. Once they became dependent on him, it would be a fatal blow to the Qi family. Maybe they would directly become a subordinate family of the Li family. The Qi family's hundreds of years of foundation would be wasted just like that. However, a series of troublesome things finally took a turn for the better today. In the mountain behind Bailu Manor, Qi Yanran and Li Zongjiu stood side by side. Beside them were some elders of the Qi family, including Qi Shaohun. On the other side, Xiao Zhao accompanied Song Jiu. Nangong Wuji was originally not interested, but when he heard that so many people had come, he also went to watch. Wan Yulan stood beside Nangong Wuji and the others. Hong Shisan was also there. Many important people had arrived. Okay. Xiao Zhao gestured. Suddenly, a loud sound came from the ground in front of them. Then the ground caved in, and a huge pit appeared in front of them. Be careful! Such a big movement made the people of the Qi family nervous. They almost rushed to protect the family head, but Qi Shaohun waved his hand. Things were different now. Qi Shaohun's secret breakthrough to the Origin Emperor realm was not known to the outside world. Only a few people in the Qi family knew about it, but Li Zongjiu definitely knew about it. Dust filled the sky in front of them, and sand and stones were flying everywhere. It was terrifying. At the same time, a powerful air wave spread out, as if tens of thousands of air cannons were fired at the same time. Huge. Boom! A strange-looking battleship soared into the sky. Its speed was extremely fast, and it was produced in an instant. When the battleship soared into the sky, everyone was immediately shocked. They couldn't even see the appearance of the battleship clearly. They saw the black battleship flying out. This was the first experiment. The newest battleship looked like a big bird. This prototype was provided by Li Zongjiu. In the future, it would be generally dominated by this type of battleship. High defense, fast speed, strong mobility, and extremely agile. It would take at least 400 to 500 years to design such a battleship. Li Zongjiu, on the other hand, directly proposed this idea. Everyone present was an expert, so they were able to understand the situation immediately. At the same time, Li Zongjiu spent at least hundreds of billions of purple yuan in these 2 months to fund the research, and all the money was paid by the White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao calculated the account book every day, and almost couldn't sleep for the whole day. When she opened her eyes, she would have to spend billions of purple yuan for nothing. Tell me, what should I do about this matter? Fortunately, Li Zongjiu gave her a heads up. No matter how much money she had to spend, she would do it without hesitation. Therefore, after a lot of research, they finally built this battleship. This battleship is called the Eagle Battleship. Zheng Haoren, who was in charge of the explanation, was also excited. When he finally saw the finished product fly into the sky, he was so excited that his heart was about to jump out of his chest. Finally, it was a success. Let's test the attack power. Li Zongjiu said, and then snapped his fingers. 2 black figures immediately flew down from the mountain. Chapter 10:10. The 2 black shadows that swooped down were the black-winged blood shadow condors. Zheng Haoren's eyes were filled with nervousness. This was the first Eagle battleship that he had spent hundreds of billions of purple yuan to build. If he didn't have any real ability, he would be letting down Li Zongjiu and many others. The ones controlling the Eagle battleship were Zheng Kong, Li Yun and other excellent pilots. The reason why he let Li Yun go up was to let Li Yun know clearly that the power of the Eagle battleship wasn't that simple. Therefore, there must be someone who knew how to tell Li Zongjio how powerful the Eagle battleship was. This was to ensure that this plan wouldn't be aborted so quickly. This was just the first generation. There were still several generations waiting for it. So, boom. The Eagle battleship had more than 10 cannons of this size, and there was also a launching cabin. As for the things stored in the launching cabin, it would be stored according to different situations. Think about it. If you were in a quiet wilderness and a powerful bomb was thrown down, it could instantly raze your family to the ground. In a matter of minutes, your family would be completely destroyed. This was the most terrifying thing. How many people would be able to withstand such a sudden attack? The Eagle battleship and the two Blackwinged Blood Shadow Condors were also entangled for a moment, but the Blackwinged Blood Shadow Condors were really powerful. With their sharp claws, it only took a few continuous attacks to break the defensive shield of the Eagle battleship. When the last layer of the defensive shield was torn apart, the Eagle battleship instantly rose up. Boom! In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the night sky. This is an escape device. It can instantly consume the energy of a high-grade primordial stone to reach 10 times the normal speed. Even the Origin Emperor level flying soul beast couldn't catch up with it. Zheng Haoran said. At this moment, his heart was surging and he couldn't calm down. When the others saw this scene, they were all shocked. What the hell is this? Fuck. After Qi Shaohun and the others saw this scene, they couldn't close their eyes at all. The performance of the Eagle battleship was clearly seen just now. Qi Shaohun and the others also knew that the appearance of the Eagle battleship would bring a great shock to the warship fleet. It would even change the way the warship battles in the future. Too fierce. Too shocking. This should be at least a few hundred years, or even thousands of years later. How did Li Zongjio's brain contain such things? This is only the first generation. There are still many areas that haven't been improved. Later on, there will be gradual improvements. Zheng Haoran said shyly. If the research was successful, everything would be fine. This was a matter of life and death for the Zheng family. If it was successful, they would go to hell if it was not successful. But now, it seems that it was successful. Everyone was shocked. Even Nangong Wuji didn't know what had happened. When did you guys dig a hole? Nangong Wuji was extremely shocked. These people were too much. They actually dug such a big hole in his territory and didn't even tell him about it. Of course, the appearance of the Eagle battleship was even more shocking. Wan Yulan was completely stunned. Could it be that the Xingyan dynasty's development had reached such a stage? They even developed such an abnormal battleship. In the past, in order to ensure the stability and power of the battleship, a huge amount of primordial stones were used to make the battleship bigger and stronger. It was like a floating city. Many designers even thought that this would be the future development direction. But the Eagle battleship displayed by the White Deer Manor. Wan Yulan saw it clearly. This kind of fast-paced battleship was almost miraculous in sneak attacks. These people are too frightening. If they didn't come to the Xingyan dynasty by accident, they would have joined the White Deer Manor by accident. It was impossible for them to discover such a thing. It was believed that this thing was absolutely hidden from Li Zongjio. A figure slowly descended. Only now did the crowd see the Eagle battleship at a close distance. From the front, they could really feel the murderous aura from the Eagle battleship. Qi! The crowd saw the cabin door open. Li Yun, Elder Zheng Kong, and the others walked down from the battleship. Around the body of the Eagle battleship, there were already very intense burn marks. Cough, cough. When we were escaping, the speed of the detonation was too slow. The safety measures were not good enough. My neck was almost broken. Also, the angle of the third attack position was not good enough. While walking, Zheng Kong kept talking about the parts that needed to be improved. There was a person behind him who was specially taking notes. Obviously, he was obsessed. At present, if we want to pilot the Eagle battleship and enter a perfect combat state, we need at least 5 battleship pilots to operate it together. This is the chief designer, Elder Zheng Kong. Zheng Haoran said. He also used this last sentence as an ending to lead the topic to Zheng Kong. At this moment, they looked like they had just been fished out of the water. Their bodies were soaked. Obviously, the interior of the battleship was not so comfortable. Elder Zheng Kong did a good job. Haoran introduced him. Li Zongjio said. Then, Zheng Kong also met Qi Shaohun, Nangong Wuji, and the others. After knowing that there were so many big shots present today, he couldn't help but feel nervous. After all, there were still many problems with the Eagle battleship. When a layman saw this thing, he might say, fuck, 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 fuck. But when an expert saw this thing, he would know the fatal flaws in it. Even the flaws in it could be seen at a glance. Therefore, in front of these experts, it was better to keep a low profile. This Eagle battleship will definitely shake the whole dynasty. Qi Shaohun said excitedly. Everyone, let's move to the living room. Li Zongjio said. After the tour of the battleship, of course, it was time to talk about business. During the research and development stage, these few companies were the ones who were paying for it. Song Jiu also put in a lot of effort. Recently, the pressure on the performance of the battleship was getting bigger and bigger. Many of her old customers were also poached away. They seemed to have noticed that her side was weak and started to gradually move away. If Li Zongjio's side also failed, it would be a fatal blow to Song Jiu, because she also used too many resources to invest in it. Fortunately, she believed that Li Zongjio's vision was correct. This Eagle battleship will definitely become famous in one shot. This potential market will be worth trillions. Song Jiu's eyes began to turn red. Chapter 10-11. In the White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao had already listed out the criteria and benefits of each party. All aspects of the matter had been settled. After all, the relationship between these families was good. Even if they could occupy a share, it was already a great opportunity. Otherwise, how could it be their turn? Just being able to take the initiative was already a very good treatment. Li Zongjio didn't participate in the specifics of the negotiations and how many benefits they would obtain. The emergence of the Eagle battleship was a big step ahead. Therefore, the technology must be thoroughly protected. If it was stolen, it would be equivalent to Li Zongjio losing several thousand purple yuan. Therefore, these people of the Zheng family must be protected. On this point, Xiao Zhao had already sent people to take care of it. Although their relationship was good, they still had to be on guard. Not only did they have to guard against the Zheng family, but they also had to be on guard against the people from the other families. After all, even in peaceful times, there were still many bad people. Li Zongjio was not in the meeting hall, so Qi Yanran naturally did not go. Otherwise, the Qi family might take advantage of this relationship and ask for an exorbitant price. Qi Yanran also did not want to make things too difficult for Li Zongjio. The two of them were taking a stroll in the courtyard when they saw Ling Yan running in anxiously. "I've finally found you. You really hid very well." Ling Yan rushed into the White Deer Manor. These days, he came to find Li Zongjio several times in a row, but Li Zongjio had been in closed-door training. This guy seemed to have nothing else to do. He was cultivating all day long. Today, he finally found him. "What's wrong?" Qi Yanran saw Ling Yan so nervous and could not help but ask. She thought something had happened. "Tomorrow is the day of the competition. We agreed that no matter what, you have to do this for me. You have to go and give them a lesson." Ling Yan was already prepared to use a rope to tie Li Zongjio up. Even if he had to forcefully kidnap him, he had to take Li Zongjio away today. "Ah, right, I forgot." Li Zongjio had also been cultivating these days. It just so happened that there were no small fries to disturb him, so Li Zongjio simply calmed down and cultivated. At the same time, he was waiting for the right time to go to the Haiku dynasty to deal with some matters. Most of the information from the Haiku dynasty came from Wan Yulan. With Wan Yulan maintaining the communications, there was no problem. "I'm going to give them a lesson." "Go ahead then." "Speaking of this competition, I'm the senior sister leading the team. Your Heavenly Day Medicine Manor had better not lose." Qi Yanran said with a hint of provocation. Li Zongjio naturally laughed. This kind of thing was hard to say. After all, the one participating in the next competition would not be Li Zongjio. If Li Zongjio participated, it would be guaranteed that they would win. Now, he was just going to give a lesson and impart some experience. Of course, he could not guarantee the final result. He followed Ling Yan to the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. When he returned to the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, Li Zongjio did not feel much. As for the Genius Pavilion, there was no need to go there now. Some of the things inside would naturally be left to the juniors of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. It would be inappropriate to rashly destroy the balance and the original rules. Senior Li Zongjio personally taught the lesson. When Li Zongjio walked into the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, he immediately saw a huge banner hanging on the roof. After seeing the banner, Li Zongjio finally understood why Ling Yan was so anxious and wanted to catch him so badly. It turned out that the words had already been said. If he did not call him over, it would be a loss of face. One had to admit that Ling Yan was really skilled and daring. He actually dared to make such a guarantee. Now, in the Sacred Flame Royal City, only Ling Yan had the confidence to invite Li Zongjio to attend such events. The other person was Elder Su Hong of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. He still had to give them face. However, Su Hong was even more cautious. He couldn't call Li Zongjio for everything. If he provoked Li Zongjio's disgust, then wouldn't the gains outweigh the losses? Unlike Ling Yan. When Li Zongjio appeared in front of the freshmen, everyone began to talk about it. Nan Pei Xian also took the time to come and listen. This disciple of a big family who was good at reading people's expressions had obviously succumbed to Li Zongjio's prestige. He had no choice but to curry favor with Li Zongjio. He had to keep these things in his heart. He had to hold Li Zongjio in the palm of his hand. As long as Li Zongjio was not dead, the world would be Li Zongjio's. He would control the wind and clouds. They actually managed to get Senior Li Zongjio to come. I heard that Senior Li Zongjio doesn't give face to anyone. We've already invited Senior Li Zongjio many times to the 3 major medicinal herbs in the city, but he never showed up. Is that so? What do you think is the relationship between Instructor Ling Yan and Senior Li? Haven't you heard? During the freshman recruitment, Senior Li was directly invited and completely stepped on the Chongqing Pavilion's limelight. Therefore, we have to be very careful in this freshman competition, because these people from the Chongqing Pavilion will definitely spare no effort to target us. The freshmen chattered in their seats. Li Zongjio walked into the classroom and immediately discovered that it was a lecture hall. In the seats, in the corridor, and in the windows, there were a lot of people sitting. This group of people obviously came to listen to Li Zongjio's lecture. Before going on stage, Li Zongjio also glanced at Ling Yan beside him. It seemed like he was asking with his eyes. Didn't you say that you were going to give a lecture to the participants? Just by counting with his nose, there were more than a few dozen people. It was estimated that all the freshmen and even some seniors were present. Ling Yan's gaze looked elsewhere, as if to say that this matter had nothing to do with him. Then he directly took the lead in applauding. Everyone applauded. Welcome your Senior Li to give you a lecture. Although Senior Li did not obtain many honors, they are all heavyweight. In this elixir gathering of the 3 dynasties, your Senior Li only used 2 minutes to defeat the trump cards of the other 2 dynasties. As soon as Ling Yan's voice fell, thunderous applause was immediately heard. The whole building seemed to be about to collapse. All of you stop. Don't play with these hypocrites. I don't know how to give a lecture. How about this? Use your mental strength to attack me. Use your strongest move. Li Zongjio said calmly. Recommended friend Guan Shenda's Heavenly Eye Treasure. The writing is exquisite and the content is wonderful. Not much to say, quick praise. Chapter 10-12. Using mental strength to attack him? Everyone was dumbfounded. There were more than 300 students present. If all of them used their mental strength at the same time, even an primitive emperor wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, these new students were all talented in alchemy. Everyone's strength wasn't weak. Although they might not be as strong as Li Zongjio individually, if they worked together, even an ant could push an elephant. Without a doubt, this was an extremely dangerous move. If Li Zongjio was strong, then Li Zongjio was only a second-year student. He was only 1 year higher than them. Just 1 year higher, yet he dared to be so arrogant. Among the new students, there were a few more arrogant fellows who sneered. "Senior Li, you'd better be prepared." Geniuses were always at loggerheads with each other. None of them were willing to submit to anyone. Li Zongjio being the champion of the elixir gathering of the 3 dynasties didn't mean that he couldn't do it. It was just because he didn't participate. It was because of this that these people were extremely arrogant. They didn't even put Li Zongjio in their eyes. They thought that this guy was just lucky. "Listen to my command. After 5 breaths, attack together." There was a young man in a purple gold robe. The arrogance between his brows was extremely strong. Moreover, he had the demeanor of a natural leader. The rest of the new students also listened to his command. Nan Peixian glanced at this young man. It was said that this young man's background wasn't simple. He was the favored son of a prince who was in charge of the north. This time, he came to Monarch City to explore the city. However, this prince should have seen a lot of things. However, he couldn't imagine that this young man in front of him, Li Zongjio, was such a terrifying existence. After a silent moment, the entire space in the classroom became chaotic. One could even clearly see the ripples in the space that were like water ripples, gradually surging over wave after wave. Boom! Li Zongjio stood still. Li Zongjio allowed the 300-plus forces in front of him to bombard him. Li Zongjio's own power was condensed here. It was like a huge pool, containing all the terrifying power in front of him. More than 300 people attacked at the same time, but they were unable to shake Li Zongjio at all. "Fuck? Is this kid a monster?" Ling Yan stood at the side. He originally wanted to stop Li Zongjio from doing such a dangerous thing, but after thinking about it, Li Zongjio had never lost before. Since he said it, it wasn't arrogance. Instead, he was truly confident. It was a good opportunity to witness the appearance of a miracle. Sure enough, Li Zongjio was able to withstand all of the attacks. It could even be said that it was a piece of cake. Boom! All of a sudden, Li Zongjio's counterattack was delivered to each of them. With twice the power of each of them, the counterattack directly blasted these people in front of him away. Boom! 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 More than 300 people at the scene vomited blood, fell, and screamed. Some of them even fainted directly. At this moment, they truly understood the terrifying strength of this senior brother Li. It was completely beyond their imagination. Just this move alone had already surpassed the cultivation realm of countless people. To be able to achieve such strength, and to be able to accurately send every force back to them. One person resisted more than 300 people. How terrifying! My class is over. Li Zongjio used his own strength to give them a good lesson. The meaning of this lesson was to tell them that they shouldn't casually fight with experts. They weren't qualified to do so. In addition, Li Zongjio was also very direct. In the return of mental energy, he directly gave them some spiritual enlightenment. If they could comprehend it and understand it, they would naturally gain something. If they couldn't comprehend it and only treated the mental energy as an attack, an external force, then they would gain nothing. Li Zongjio directly turned and left after leaving this sentence. Ling Yan and the others were dumbfounded as they looked at the mess in front of them. "You brat came to this class and injured so many people, and you actually just left a sentence behind and walked away like a feather. You brat is really brave." "Hey, you brat, are you coming to the competition tomorrow?" Ling Yan shouted at Li Zongjio's back. "Not going." Li Zongjio directly left after leaving this sentence. "How could I have so much time to accompany you to do these things every day?" Originally, Ling Yan wanted to pester Li Zongjio, at least to settle this matter. However, the scene was so chaotic. So many students were injured by Li Zongjio. If this spread out, wouldn't it make people's jaws drop? However, an unexpected situation occurred. Some of the students who were injured by Li Zongjio directly meditated and began to cultivate, regardless of their injuries. It seemed that they wanted to refine this power in a timely manner. If this enlightenment disappeared, for them, they would lose a very important opportunity. looking at them entering the state of cultivation and meditation one by one. Originally, Ling Yan didn't understand what kind of lesson Li Zongjio gave them, but now it seemed that Li Zongjio really gave them a very precious lesson. To be able to let so many people enter the state of enlightenment, what kind of teaching method is this? Ling Yan was stunned when he saw this scene. However, to be able to achieve Li Zongjio's level, at least Li Zongjio's level of mental strength was required. Otherwise, how could it be possible to achieve this level? Therefore, there was no way to replicate this method. Only Li Zongjio could succeed. When Li Zongjio walked out of Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion, there were several figures in front of him. They walked towards Li Zongjio and arrogantly blocked Li Zongjio's path. You must be Li Zongjio. The person who walked towards him had a cold face and was a head taller than Li Zongjio. He stared arrogantly at Li Zongjio in front of him. You want to die? Li Zongjio looked at the four people in front of him. He really didn't know what these youngsters were thinking. They actually dared to block Li Zongjio's path. This was too stupid of an action. In the Sacred Flame Imperial City, no one dared to block Li Zongjio's path for a long time. We are from Longevity Academy. Under the orders of eldest senior brother, we invite you to be present tomorrow. After saying that, he used his nose to glare at Li Zongjio and whispered in Li Zongjio's ear. If you don't show up at that time, you will bear the consequences. Chapter 10:13. Bear the consequences yourself. Naturally, the meaning of the threat was quite clear. Li Zongjio couldn't help but laugh. How many of you are here? Li Zongjio looked at the man in front of him. The man was also stunned, not understanding what Li Zongjio meant. Bang! Before the man could react, Li Zongjio had already kicked him. Then, he kicked the man who had just spoken out. Along the street, he flew out for 100 meters. Finally, he fell to the ground with a plop. His buttocks landed directly on the ground. Li Zongjio's kick also caused a sharp pain in his chest. Obviously, this kick just now had broken several of his bones. Cough, cough. After that man fell to the ground, he never got up again. The three people beside him were furious when they saw that Li Zongjio had dared to attack them. These people were specially recruited. Changsheng Pavilion was a sect that specialized in alchemy. However, they also paid great attention to the cultivation of their origin power because they didn't need to seek protection from the outside world. If they only focused on the development of their alchemy cultivation, they would only become tools for others in the future. They would end up in a very tragic state. The pavilion master of Changsheng Pavilion had obviously realized this. Therefore, Changsheng Pavilion was also divided into the Alchemy Pavilion and the Martial Pavilion. These people were all disciples of the Martial Pavilion. Those who were able to enter the Longevity Pavilion were all extremely talented people. There were very few disciples in the Martial Pavilion to begin with. Therefore, the requirements for talent were even higher. The disciples of Changsheng Pavilion and the Martial Pavilion were even stronger than the core disciples of some of the first-rate sections. That was indeed the case. You have a death wish. Since Li Zongjio had attacked, there was no need for them to hold back. It was not Changsheng Pavilion's style to always be patient. If something happened, the higher-ups would naturally take care of it. Immediately, a fierce look flashed across the faces of the three people. In the next second, there were 3 consecutive muffled sounds. Bang, bang, bang. Another 3 people were sent flying. They fell to the ground. It landed on the body of the person who had been sent flying by the kick. The 3 of them fell to the ground one after another like a human pyramid. The 4 of them stacked on top of each other on the street immediately attracted the attention of countless onlookers. Coincidentally, the 4 of them couldn't get up for a long time. The strength of Li Zongjio's kick was quite accurate. It would take at least 10 minutes for them to recover, and during this time, they would not be able to move at all. He's really courting death. Li Zongjio scanned with his spiritual power. How dare these people from the Longevity Pavilion behave so atrociously in front of Li Zongjio? He quickly found a figure in the city. His figure flashed, and he immediately appeared in front of an inn in the city. A man was seated at a table near the street, drinking tea. Clearly, he had witnessed the scene of the cultivators from the longevity pavilion getting kicked away. Obviously, he was extremely shocked by this scene. However, when Li Zongjio appeared in front of him, he was even more surprised. "Brother, is there something you need?" The man was obviously surprised, but he forced himself to remain calm. "I'm fine, but you're not." After Li Zongjio finished speaking, he kicked the man. The man had no way of dodging at all. His physical fitness was much worse than the 4 people from before. After the kick, he flew over the fence on the 2nd floor and landed on the street. The person who was kicked onto the street spat out a mouthful of blood. Clearly, he did not dare to believe that Li Zongjio would know about the people he had arranged. "Next time, find out whose territory this is." Li Zongjio came in front of the man. Crippling these people was a piece of cake for Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio's temper had improved. If it was before, even if these people did not die, they would lose some parts. A mere longevity pavilion dared to behave so atrociously in front of Li Zongjio. They must be tired of living. Since these people from the longevity pavilion were so eager to die, Li Zongjio would definitely make a trip to the longevity pavilion as a guest when he had the time. The news of the disciples of the longevity pavilion being beaten up on the street quickly spread. The news spread like wildfire, and some people saw the person who beat them up. It was a heroic-looking young man, which immediately caused people to be shocked. After some investigation, it turned out that it was Li Zongjio from the White Deer Manor. It was no wonder. They were actually looking for trouble with Li Zongjio. How could they not be at a disadvantage? Sigh, the Longevity Medicine Manor is probably trying to build up their reputation. That's why they want to make a move on Li Zongjio. If they can directly trip Li Zongjio up, the reputation of the Longevity Medicine Manor will naturally rise. However, they seem to have found the wrong person. I'm afraid that they are not qualified to go against Li Zongjio with their strength. It's a good thing that Li Zongjio's temper has improved recently. In the past, at least 100 lives in Royal City were related to Li Zongjio. Some of the people who had been in Royal City for a longer time had naturally heard of Li Zongjio's reputation. They even knew how shocking the things that Li Zongjio had done were. Now, their tempers were slightly more restrained. Naturally, this made everyone even more surprised. Although they had been holding it in all day and had not exploded, it would be too late for regrets if they suddenly exploded one day. Jin Province. Gu family. The Gu family sat on the resources of the entire Jin Province. A long time ago, as an earth-shattering and powerful family, one could imagine how majestic they were back then. Later on, when the Xingyan dynasty's royal family rose to power, they divided the world and made it their own territory. If anyone was dissatisfied, they could directly start a war. In the end, they were able to obtain such a place in the Gu family. This was already a great honor for the Gu family. However, this also proved that the Gu family was strong and powerful. It would not be so easy to destroy them. The cohesion of the entire Gu family in Jin Province naturally surpassed that of the Xingyan dynasty. Sometimes, having a large territory was not necessarily a good thing. If something were to happen, one might not be able to take care of it. The Gu family occupied Jin Province's Skygold City. Within Skygold City, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly descended between the heavens and the earth. Some of the elders in the Gu family who were waiting for orders also stood up in shock at this moment. Their faces were filled with surprise. This is the family head. The family head has finally broken through. The sovereign realm. Looking down on the universe. This surging aura was so vast that it shook the mountains and the seas. The Yuan Qi within Jin Province also surged towards the Gu family like 3 flowers at one's head at this moment. Some of the people who were in charge of secretly watching the Gu family were stunned when they saw this scene. Chapter 1014. White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao had also received the news. In fact, after Li Zongjio and the Gu family had a grudge, Xiao Zhao had been paying attention to the Gu family in the Jin region. After all, the Gu family in the Jin region was extremely powerful. It was not something that ordinary forces could compare to. After such a thing happened, they actually remained indifferent. This meant that the Gu family had been preparing for something. Now he finally knew. These people were actually waiting for their family head to break through to the sovereign realm. The entire Jin region, or even the entire Xingyan dynasty, would be extremely shocked. He did not know what the Xingyan dynasty's imperial family would do in the face of a powerful supreme being expert. In short, regardless of what the Holy Flame imperial family or other forces would do, he had to ensure that the Gu family would not find trouble with the White Deer Manor. After thinking about it, Xiao Zhao decided to report this news to Li Zongjiu. Before a sovereign realm expert, any form of deterrence was useless. The sovereign realm expert only needed a light palm strike to destroy the entire White Deer Manor. Contrary to Xiao Zhao's expectations. After Li Zongjiu received the news, he only nodded and said that he understood. After that, he did not do anything else. Although Xiao Zhao was burning with anxiety, he did not continue to ask because of his respect and trust for Li Zongjiu. However, Xiao Zhao was also trying his best to recruit some experts. He had to ensure the safety of the White Deer Manor. A sovereign realm expert had appeared in the Jin region's Gu family. This news was not concealed at all. In just a day, the whole world knew about it. The Heavenly Pill Pavilion also knew that Li Zongjiu and the Gu family had an indelible hatred. However, the Gu family's strength made it difficult for them. One was a genius alchemist. If they lost such a genius, they did not know when they would be able to find another one. However, the other was a sovereign realm expert. What kind of concept was this? Even the royal family of the Xingyan dynasty did not dare to overlook it. They had to pay full attention to it. The attitude of the Skyflame dynasty's royal family was also unclear. However, 3 days later, they rewarded the Gu family's patriarch. The head of the Gu clan was appointed as the governor of the Two Mountains. The so-called governor of the Two Mountains referred to the terrain between the two heavenly moat mountain ranges, which would be under the jurisdiction of the Gu clan. These two mountains were actually the Gu clan's territory. It was just that he didn't say it out loud before. Now that he said it out loud, it was equivalent to tacitly agreeing to the Gu family's position as the overlord of Jin state. He didn't admit it in the past, but now he directly admitted it. He also wanted the Gu family head to report to the imperial court in a few days. When Qi Yanran heard the news, she was also very anxious. The head of the Gu clan has been conferred the title of governor of the Two Mountains. Within half a month at most, he will definitely come to Royal City to meet the emperor. Zongjiu, the head of the Gu clan, will definitely come to settle the score from before. Qi Yanran said to Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had also just come out of seclusion recently. The freshman competition had already entered a critical stage. In short, the situation of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wasn't very good. The Longevity Medicine Manor and the Azure Ocean Academy were like brave armies, singing loudly and breaking through one after another. They were coming with great momentum. The Longevity Herb Manor was one thing. However, the Azure Sea Academy actually possessed such strength. Due to that, the onlookers were taken aback. They had originally assumed that the Azure Sea Academy was just a cannon fodder. At that very moment, however, the results that the Azure Sea Academy had achieved were extremely impressive. Qi Yanran was originally in charge of the Four Seas Academy. But after hearing the news, the first thing that came to her mind was Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu had killed so many people from the Gu clan, so he would definitely come for revenge. He might even kill Li Zongjiu to establish his dominance. This kind of thing couldn't be more normal. Don't worry. He's just a supreme being who has just broken through. He won't be able to cause much trouble in front of me. But your words have reminded me. Li Zongjiu stood up and brushed off the dust on his body. Waiting for the Gu clan to come knocking on his door? That wasn't Li Zongjiu's style. Since everyone said that he was a threat, Li Zongjiu naturally couldn't let him continue living. Xiao Zhao, can the Eagle battleship enter the battle now? Li Zongjiu called for Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao was waiting for orders not far away. Young master, other than the experimental model, there's a real prototype, the Eagle battleship number 1. It can enter the battle at any time. Xiao Zhao replied. Get the pilot ready to make a trip to Jinzhou. Li Zongjiu said. The moment he said that, the two girls were shocked. Zongjio? When Qi Yanran heard that, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. However, Qi Yanran understood Li Zongjio's character. After hesitating for a moment, she stepped forward and held Li Zongjio's hand. No matter what, I'll accompany you. Hearing Qi Yanran's words, Li Zongjio pinched her cheeks. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to any of you. Li Zongjio said gently. Also, call all the guest elders of our White Deer Manor. Li Zongjio said. In recent days, he had also recruited a lot of experts. At this moment, they were all gathered in White Deer Manor. Xiao Zhao was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that Li Zongjio would choose to take the initiative to attack. Going to the Gu clan in Jinzhou. It was truly shocking. It was completely unexpected. Just like how no one dared to believe that Li Zongjio could kill his way into Qingyuan Manor alone and overturn the entire manor, causing a huge commotion. How can you kill me when it's all about fighting and killing? Kun Arashi's figure walked in from outside. When he heard the news, Kun Arashi's first reaction was that the Gu clan was in trouble. However, the other party was a supreme being expert, and he didn't know if Li Zongjio could handle it. However, with Li Zongjio's temper, he would definitely take the initiative to deal with the Gu clan. What have you been doing all this time? Don't talk about it. Teacher Sun Yu has been researching something recently. I haven't seen the sun for a long time. When Kun Arashir said this, he looked depressed. It was obvious that Sun Yu had high hopes for Kun Arashir. He would bring Kun Arashir into everything, which gave Kun Arashir a headache. After a few days of continuous research, they also stayed in the laboratory and did very boring research. In terms of elixir research, Li Zongjio obviously couldn't directly take out the results of the future. If he did that, these people wouldn't be able to handle the amount of information. Secondly, if their foundation wasn't solid enough, everything in the future would be superficial. This was something that had to be remembered clearly. If they encountered a slight problem, they wouldn't be able to solve it. Alright, follow me to Jinzhou. Chapter 10-15. Something big was happening in the White Deer Manor. All the experts stationed in various places were summoned. Obviously, there was going to be a tough battle. Wan Yulan was among them. The Black Canal Basilica had not done anything recently, which was out of Wan Yulan's expectation. Perhaps these people had confidence in the life and death servant, which was why they were so lax. However, Wan Yulan was also thinking of ways to cut off the information from here. Just the spies of the Heike dynasty had been purged during this period. Except for Wan Yulan. There were also two primitive emperor experts who were hired as guests of the White Deer Manor. These two were brothers, known as the Liangshan brothers. It was said that these two were inseparable. If they joined forces, their combat power would be extremely terrifying. Although they were only second-grade primitive emperors, their combined strength would be close to that of a fourth-grade primitive emperor. However, there seemed to be some problems with the cultivation techniques that these two cultivated. Therefore, they came to Li Zongjio's White Deer Manor to ask for medicine. Li Zongjio knew the symptoms of these two at a glance. He casually refined an elixir and their injuries were healed. Of course, he did not eradicate them directly. However, this also made the Liangshan brothers understand that Li Zongjio had the ability to heal them. On the spot, the Liangshan brothers slapped their thighs and joined the White Deer Manor as guests. In addition, there were some Yuan King experts. These Yuan King experts were not qualified to guard the White Deer Manor. Therefore, they were sent to guard the shops below. There would often be some small disturbances. Therefore, this was a very normal thing. Now that Li Zongjio had taken action, he had gathered all these people. The number of Yuan King experts had reached 20. With such a lineup, ordinary first-rate sects would not dare to provoke them. No one could have imagined that the White Deer Manor would develop to such a scale in such a short period of time, and that their forces would grow to such an extent. Nangong Wuji, you stay in the manor. I'm afraid that someone will come and cause trouble. Li Zongjio said. Everyone else, board the warship. Even Hong Shisan was captured by Li Zongjio as a strong man. However, Xiao Zhao was extremely worried. Perhaps if these people went, they would be completely wiped out. Perhaps the young master would really not be able to return after leaving. TDT, how could he think like that? Young master, you must be careful. The size of the Eagle battleship was enough to carry so many people. When the warship rose into the sky, two figures from the White Deer Manor swiftly followed behind it. He flew towards the distant sky. The actions of the White Deer Manor were naturally noticed by the other factions in the city. With such a big movement, it was definitely not an escape. In fact, there was no place to escape. With their strength, it was extremely easy for them to catch you. That kid really set off? When Chu Tairan heard this news, his face was also filled with nervousness and disbelief. However, Li Zongjio's action of striking a stone with an egg was really stupid. If Li Zongjio really had the ability to deal with a sovereign realm expert, then he would be able to do it. Then why would he stay here? No, I have to go and see Emperor Xian. Speaking of this, Chu Tairan hurriedly prepared. However, when Chu Tairan walked into the palace, he was informed that the great emperor was in seclusion. It was obvious that he was trying to decline. Now, the only person in the world who could save Li Zongjio was the Emperor Xingyan. If the Emperor Xingyan was unwilling to help, Li Zongjio could only die. Emperor, Li Zongjio must not die. In Chu Tairan's eyes, he could already foresee that Li Zongjio's achievements in the future would definitely surpass that of a Supreme Being expert. Although the prestige of a Supreme Being expert was unparalleled in the world, this matter was not so simple. The changes that Li Zongjio's talent could bring to the alchemy world were immeasurable. However, Emperor Xingyan seemed to be indifferent. Even for a long time, Emperor Xingyan had solved things in this way. He let them solve everything by themselves. The extent to which this matter could develop was what Emperor Xingyan liked. Otherwise, if he interfered with any side and caused some irreversible losses, it would be extremely inappropriate for Emperor Xingyan. Similarly, the Gu family of the Jin province also received the news that Li Zongjio was moving out in full force. In the eyes of the Gu family, such a suicidal action was simply idiotic. The third elder of the Gu family, Gu Tianxing. Gu Tianxing gathered a group of experts from the Gu family, and at the same time, he also gathered the experts from the other major families in Skygold City. If you discover the actions of the people from the White Deer Manor, you know what to do? Gu Tianxing said indifferently. At this moment, there were more than 10 primitive emperors sitting in this meeting. The number of experts from the forces behind them would be even greater. No one dared to believe that when this power was gathered together, it actually possessed such a powerful might. Rest assured, Elder. I will send people to intercept them at Walnut Ridge tonight. How dare a mere ant act rashly in front of a saint? To them, an external enemy like Li Zongjio should be eliminated. That night, a large group of experts had already set up an ambush on Walnut Ridge. This was the only way to Skygold City. Not only that, they had also specially mobilized 2 warships that were comparable to the Qilin warships to seal off the entire sky. Many experts were resting on the deck. Do you think that Li Zongjio is a fool? What is he thinking? Why is he attacking the Gu family? No, I think that Li Zongjio is very smart. What do you mean? Think about it. If Li Zongjio had stayed here obediently, he could only have died a sullen death. In the end, he would have nothing left. However, if he came here directly, although he would definitely die at his age, he would have embarrassed the powerful Gu family. Wouldn't he leave behind a good story for the future generations? At the very least, he would have preserved his reputation. An primitive emperor said as he sipped on his wine, analyzing the situation. Currently, there were 7 primitive emperors and more than 50 primitive kings on Walnut Ridge. They were all waiting for Li Zongjio's arrival. In their opinion, the forces gathered by Li Zongjio were like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Attention, there's movement ahead. Suddenly, someone sounded the alarm. At the same time, a light incendiary bomb shot into the sky, illuminating the scene ahead. When this light appeared, 2 beams of light instantly blasted their warship. Boom! Billowing smoke suddenly rose into the sky. The warship fell directly from the sky. As the flames flickered, the 7 primitive emperors from Skygold City unleashed their auras and rushed towards the strange-looking warship. The outside world did not know how many people Li Zongjio had brought with him. Chapter 10:16. The 7 primitive emperors joined forces and unleashed a terrifying aura. At the same time, they immediately noticed that there seemed to be some movement in front of them. They saw a strange-looking warship appearing in front of them. It was this thing that had shot down their warship. Shoot it down. At this moment, a strong mental strength spread out. 3 of them were immediately trapped by this mental strength. They were stunned on the spot, unable to move. Then, 3 blazing rays of light pierced through the 3 of them. Boom! Immediately, the 3 of them were burned to ashes. They were killed by the other party before they could even react. What? The appearance of such a situation could be said to be unprecedented. Everyone could not believe it. 3 primitive emperors were killed by the other party in an instant. Did they think this was an opera? Swoosh! From the warship, a white light suddenly swept down and immediately wrapped around one of them. Immediately, the figure struggled for a while. However, the white light on his body seemed to be extremely powerful. He could not break free at all. The other 2 wanted to help when they saw the situation, but they were attracted by the 2 strong winds behind them. The black-winged blood shadow condor was like a killer in the dark night. It appeared in a hurry and escaped 1,000 meters away. Of course, its talons were also grabbing a figure. The cannons on the Eagle-type warship accurately blasted the figure grabbed by the black-winged blood shadow condor into pieces. Boom! Boom! 2 of them died instantly. The only person who wasn't injured and didn't target Li Zongjio was the person who had said that Li Zongjio was smart but was actually mocking him. When he saw the scene before him, when he saw this, he panicked and rushed towards the direction of Skygold City as if he had lost his soul. However, the 2 black-winged blood shadow condors rushed towards this expert, trying to outdo each other. Boom! The sound of an explosion was heard. The terrifying commotion was rather tragic. One could even see the primitive emperor expert being tossed around like a toy by the 2 meta beasts in the air. Limbs flew. Blood splattered. Li Zongjio waved his hand, and the expert standing on the warship jumped and rushed towards the people below. Other than the primitive emperors, there were also dozens of primitive monarchs lying in ambush below. The power displayed by these primitive monarchs should not be underestimated. They could also be of use at critical moments. However, the 7 Yuan monarchs had been dealt with in an instant. Now, there was no lack of Yuan monarchs among the enemies that were rushing over. Yuan monarchs like them simply weren't enough. After barely holding on for a moment, they began to flee frantically. The men that Li Zongjio brought with him did not show any mercy. They killed those that they could, and left those that they could not to the black-winged blood shadow condor. Li Zongjio had taken care of all the people who had shown up tonight. The person who had been swept up into the sky by Qi Yanran's desolate heaven essence. Li Zongjio also took the latter's life with his hammer. It took less than 10 minutes to deal with the enemies that were lying in ambush at Walnut Ridge. Although it sounded fast, there was still some resistance in the process of carrying it out. I'd like to see how many people dare to stop me, Li Zongjio said coldly. The men under him were also quite excited after fighting for a while. Moments later, the warship arrived in front of Skygold City. However, Li Zongjio did not expose the Eagle warship. He let the Eagle warship hover 10,000 meters above the ground. It hid in the clouds, waiting for the call at any time. 2 black-winged blood shadow condors were also hovering in the sky, protecting the warship. After all, Li Yun was also in the warship. Hence, the warship could not be damaged. If the warship was destroyed, the loss would be considerable. Li Zongjio was here to cause trouble for the Gu family, not to massacre the city. Naturally, he would not attack the city. The guards of Skygold City were soldiers of the imperial court. Although most of the people in power had been bribed, they did not dare to question Li Zongjio and his men when they saw him walking over. Even if they had been ordered to do so. At this moment, there would not be any obstruction and they would let him pass. Lord Li, I am the guard of Skygold City, Meng Hao. To be honest, the city is now filled with murderous intent. "Lord, please do not enter the city rashly." A general in armor came up to Li Zongjio and said, after all, Li Zongjio was an honorary elder of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. He was also an official of the imperial court. If he could help him at this time, it would be considered as fulfilling his duty. At the same time, he might be able to make a fortune. If that was the case, he would have made a fortune. In any case, Li Zongjio wouldn't be able to live for long. In his opinion, Li Zongjio would die sooner or later. It was more or less the same. You accepted the Gu family's money, and now you want to get some benefits from me. You have done a good job of being smooth and slick. Li Zongjio glanced at Meng Hao indifferently. With just one glance, Meng Hao felt as if he had been plunged into an ice cellar. What kind of person could have such a terrifying look in their eyes? Meng Hao's heart was completely shaken. He did not dare to say anything more. When I leave the city, you can kill yourself. Otherwise, I will bury your whole family with you. Li Zongjio patted Meng Hao's shoulder. He directly led his men and swept past Meng Hao. Meng Hao's body froze on the spot. He did not expect Li Zongjio, who was only a teenager, to have such sharp eyes. This did not conform to the latter's settings at all. How is this possible? As he spoke, his heart began to pound with nervousness. Your Excellency, Li Zongjio is too presumptuous. One of Meng Hao's deputies stepped forward. It seemed that he could not stand Li Zongjio's arrogance, but he did not dare to say anything in front of Li Zongjio. But what he said? Your Excellency, what do you think? When Li Zongjio left, he would kill himself. You want me to die? It's hard to say if he can even survive the night. Meng Hao laughed coldly. He had originally wanted to pretend to warn Li Zongjio out of goodwill and then take the opportunity to gain some benefits. However, he did not expect Li Zongjio to directly expose him. This made him feel extremely embarrassed. You actually want me to kill myself? Do you think you are the emperor? In any case, I am the guardian general of Sky Gold City. If I kill myself because of a single sentence from you, how embarrassing would that be? As he thought about this, Meng Hao felt as if he had been possessed. Every moment, he thought about the way Li Zongjio looked at him. At the same time, he was also worried. If Li Zongjio really left alive, wouldn't he really be in trouble? Chapter 10:17. It was already late, so Li Zongjio didn't charge straight into the Gu family. That way, if word got out, wouldn't he be like a bandit? That would be a huge blow to his reputation. Thus, Li Zongjio directly brought his men and found a top-notch restaurant opposite the Gu family's courtyard. Everyone stayed there. This place was the property of the Gu family. Although it wasn't managed by the Gu family, the big boss behind it was the Gu family. Hence, it was considered a high-class restaurant in the core district. Manager, please arrange for all of us to stay here. If we can't accommodate all of us, please chase the other guests out. You can leave by yourself. Li Zongjio walked in and said nonchalantly. Before the manager could reply, he saw a group of fiendish people walk in with smirks on their faces, as if they were ready to explode at any moment. The manager, who had been scheming, felt his heart skip a beat when he saw so many people walk in. These people didn't seem easy to deal with, so he wanted to remind these arrogant people of where they were. However, one of his subordinates also came forward and whispered a few words in the manager's ear. The manager's expression changed immediately and he immediately served them with good wine and meat. Don't worry, there are plenty of rooms tonight. It won't be a problem for each of you to have a room. As a high-class restaurant in the core district, how could it be small? Hence, there were more than 100 rooms. Clear out the best room for our young master. A Yuan monarch elite working under Taifai said. This person had been at the forefront when dealing with Zhang Feng. He was also the most courageous and unafraid of death. At the same time, he was also very observant and knew what a young master like Li Zongjio wanted. Now, not only had he killed his way into the Sky Gold City, but he had also stayed in the inn opposite the Gu family. There was only one word to describe it: arrogance. This person was called Mao Jiang, and he was a ruthless person. Upon hearing Mao Jiang's words and seeing the unfriendly looks in everyone's eyes, the manager looked troubled. Sir, to tell you the truth, the top floor of our Golden Heaven Pavilion has been reserved by a young master of the Gu family for an extended period of time. We truly do not possess that authority. The shopkeeper said with a long face. Mao Jiang was excited when he heard that. What a guy! Who's so bold that he dares to snatch a room from our young master? Call him down. Immediately, the slap landed on the people brought by Li Zongjio. The dozen or so tables in the main hall of the inn were all filled. Li Zongjio sat in a private room. Qi Yanran, Wan Yulan, and Kuan Erisher sat with Li Zongjio. During the battle just now, Kuan Erisher had also challenged a few people. Of course, in the end, Kuan Erisher did not kill them. It was not that he did not want to kill them, but that they ran too fast. If Kuan Erisher rashly chased after them, the situation would not be certain. Where did this dog come from? Don't you know whose territory this is? Barking and shouting here. Just as Mao Jiang was taking the lead to cause trouble, a handsome man came down from upstairs with a delicate woman in his arms. There were two burly guards in front of him leading the way. As a direct descendant of the Gu family, Gu Zhuyuan was ranked 13th among the direct descendant disciples. He was also known as the 13th young master. The Gu family was a large family with countless disciples. In order to make it easier to calculate, they directly used strength to determine seniority. The stronger one was, the higher one's ranking would be. As long as one was not over 30 years old, they would be ranked according to this method. The rooms on the top floor of the Sky Gold Pavilion were all reserved by the 13th young master, Gu Zhuyuan. In a place like the Sky Gold City, there was naturally no need for bodyguards. However, with his status, he would not have any underlings following him when he went out. How could this be? When Mao Jiang heard Gu Zhiyuan's words, a sinister smile appeared on his face. It was normal to be scolded in the underworld. However, the prerequisite was that one had sufficient strength. If one did not have enough strength, the consequences would be very tragic. Oh, this girl is not bad. Brother Mao, shall we go and get to know her? Another person who had a good relationship with Mao Jiang also stood up. All right, let this blind thing see who's the real dog. There were more than 20 Yuan monarchs and 5 or 6 Yuan emperors sitting on his side. How could he be afraid? Even if he failed, there would definitely be others who would replace him. This brat would definitely be dead. You're courting death. Cripple the two of them. Throw them to the backyard to feed the dogs. With Gu Zhiyuan's command, the two burly men in front of him charged towards Mao Jiang and the other person. The four of them collided with each other and were forced to retreat. They were actually Yuan monarchs. The Gu family was indeed an ancient family. Even the 13th young master's bodyguards were Yuan monarchs. However, Mao Jiang and the other person did not cower. Instead, they revealed excited expressions. They had not had enough fun killing at Walnut Ridge just now. Again! The four of them fought fiercely. Who knew how many tables, chairs, and benches were smashed? The ground shook and many diners fled one after another. In the end, Mao Jiang and the other person's skills were a level higher and they directly defeated the other two. Each of them stepped on the ground one by one. Brat, how many people do you have? Just call them over. Mao Jiang's clothes were torn to shreds. The strong muscles on his chest were exposed. At the same time, Mao Jiang looked at Gu Zhuyuan provocatively and used his gaze to tease the girl beside Gu Zhuyuan. Gu Zhuyuan sneered when he saw this. Immediately, Gu Zhuyuan's figure flashed like a ray of light and instantly appeared in front of Mao Jiang. He stretched out his hand and a terrifying amount of Yuan qi condensed between his palms. Mao Jiang and the other person's eyes flashed with surprise. In the next moment, they collided with Gu Zhuyuan's palms and were sent flying. Bang! Bang! Gu Zhuyuan's strength had actually reached the level of a 7th grade Yuan monarch. If Qi Yanran had not consumed the Sky Dragon elixir, she definitely would not have been able to compete with Gu Zhuyuan in terms of cultivation. Of course, the elixirs and resources that Gu Zhuyuan could consume were not on the same level as Qi Yanran. It was normal for the latter to have such strength. Furthermore, with the Desolate Heaven essence in hand, even if Qi Yanran was only a 1st grade Yuan monarch, she would still be able to beat the person in front of her. 2 pieces of trash dare to be insolent in front of me? Trash, how many people do you have? Come at me together. Gu Zhiyuan raised his eyebrows slightly and said arrogantly. However, he guessed that these 2 were just wanderers who didn't know the difference between life and death. After he finished speaking, Gu Zhiyuan turned around and extended his hand, preparing to receive the ladder. In the end, he saw that his woman had a frightened expression in her eyes. Furthermore, she was pointing behind him. When Gu Zhiyuan turned around with a frown on his face, he saw that the 20 to 30 people who were eating and drinking in the inn had all stood up. Some of them had toothpicks in their mouths, while others had pig heads in their hands. Their gazes were extremely unfriendly. Sorry, we still have so many people. Kuan Arisher laughed loudly. Chapter 10:18. Gu Zhiyuan was taken aback when he saw such a huge lineup. What sort of situation was this? However, the people before him dared to act arrogantly before him. Gu Zhiyuan? Idiot, which clan are you from? Don't tell me you don't know whose territory this is. Gu Zhiyuan bellowed at these people, wanting to suppress them with his aura. However, it was clear that Gu Zhiyuan's aura was unable to suppress the people before him. Everyone had a mocking attitude. From the looks of it, the latter was flustered and exasperated. However, Gu Zhiyuan was no fool. The people before him had clearly inquired about this place. It was clear that they had come to look for trouble. Immediately, Gu Zhiyuan leapt up and rushed up the stairs. He planned to flee in another direction. However, by the time that Gu Zhiyuan moved, someone had already acted. Gu Zhiyuan was directly captured. Get down! Bang! The ones who attacked were the Liangshan brothers. Under the beckoning of these 2 brothers, Gu Zhiyuan naturally did not have the strength to fight back and was easily thrown to the ground. The rest of the people also swarmed up and violently beat up the Gu clan's young master. Finally, they dragged him to Li Zongjio. At this moment, Gu Zhiyuan's face was covered in wounds and blood. Li Zongjio looked at Gu Zhiyuan's female companion and casually waved his hand, indicating for her to leave. However, the woman seemed to have been scared silly by this scene. She did not dare to believe that someone would dare to attack Gu Zhiyuan. Right across from the Gu clan, was this person tired of living? There were truly all kinds of people in this world. Why aren't you leaving yet? One of them shouted at the woman. Only then did the woman wake up from her daze. She quickly lifted her little skirt and ran away. After the woman left, only then did Li Zongjio prepare to deal with Gu Zhiyuan. Your mouth is very dirty and needs to be cleaned. Since your parents didn't teach you well, I must properly teach you in your father's place. A person must know manners. Knock out all his teeth, Li Zongjio said indifferently. Or you, what do you want? Gu Zhiyuan didn't know Li Zongjio at all. This Li Zongjio was clearly targeting him. This made Gu Zhiyuan very unhappy. What the hell is going on with you? Why are you targeting me? In Skygold City, Gu Zhiyuan would never provoke others unless it was done by someone from the Gu clan. Otherwise, how could anyone attack a member of the Gu clan in Skygold City? That person must be tired of living. You didn't offend me. You're just unlucky. Li Zongjio casually waved his hand, and several people dragged Gu Zhiyuan away. They pulled out his teeth on the spot. Hearing Gu Zhiyuan squealing like a pig being slaughtered, some people enjoyed it. Normally, these young masters of aristocratic families would bully others. Although Gu Zhiyuan hadn't bullied them, his arrogant and hedonistic temperament naturally needed to be taught a lesson. News of Li Zongjio's arrival in the city. The entire Gu clan was shaken. The Gu clan's 3rd elder immediately appeared to preside over the situation. In front of Gu Tianxing was a long table that was close to 20 meters long. On both sides of the table sat people in different attire. Some of the people in the table had already changed their seats. 3rd elder, our patriarch has never returned. When we investigated the scene, we only found our patriarch's corpse. You must seek justice for our patriarch. Our great elder's corpse is also nowhere to be found. Li Zongjio and his group are simply unreasonable bandits. They kill people like flies and deserve to die. 3rd elder, We just received news that Li Zongjio and his group are currently staying in the Sky Gold Tower. 13th young Master Gu Zhuyin has been captured by them. A deacon of the Gu clan came to report. Gu Tianxing could still sit still after hearing the previous news. However, after hearing this news, he could no longer sit still. What? The reason why Gu Zhuyin was able to stay in the Sky Gold Tower was naturally because his identity wasn't simple. Gu Tianxing was his grandfather. With the Gu clan's third elder's grandfather as his backer, as long as he didn't go overboard, no one would do anything to him. As long as Gu Zhuyuan knew his limits, he wouldn't have to worry about food or clothing. In addition, Gu Zhuyuan's talent wasn't bad and he was quite hardworking. He was just a bit lustful. However, Gu Tianxing didn't care about that. Which man wasn't lustful? You're courting death. Gu Tianxing was obviously furious. He had actually captured his grandson. Li Zongjio was so vicious and merciless. He didn't know what he would do to Gu Zhuyuan, but he knew that it wouldn't be anything good. He could imagine it just by thinking about it. Immediately summon the torture chamber's ancient soldiers. Gu Tianxing immediately ordered. The torture chamber's ancient soldiers were the Gu clan's external fighting force. Once the ancient soldiers appeared, it meant that the Gu clan's attitude had arrived. If you still stubbornly resisted, only death would await you. Obviously, Gu Tianxing couldn't tolerate this. The other party had arranged a large number of people in the Golden Sky Pavilion. This was clearly provoking the Gu clan. If he could tolerate this, then Gu Tianxing didn't need to continue being the third elder. Elder, please wait. We don't know the strength of the other party's people. If we attack rashly, we might suffer losses. One of the elders hurriedly tried to persuade him. The great elder and second elder were assisting the family head to stabilize his realm. At the same time, they also gathered in front of the family head and enjoyed some benefits in front of this newly advanced supreme being. Therefore, most of the responsibility was given to the third elder. Most of the authority was in the third elder's hands. Originally, the great elder and second elder, and even the family head himself, would come out of seclusion soon. However, when they heard that Gu Zhuyuan was in the hands of the other party, they couldn't tolerate it. They had to completely kill Li Zongjio. Shut up. Do you think the Gu clan's strength can't cripple a mere country bumpkin? Li Zongjio's background had naturally been thoroughly investigated by the Gu clan. In their opinion, a place like Luoxia City was simply a wasteland. How could anyone live in such a place where the vitality was thin and the resources were scarce? If one were to draw a circle in Jin Province, the resources under the land would be many times richer than Luoxia City. Therefore, they naturally looked down on Li Zongjio. At this moment, it was obvious that Li Zongjio had climbed up and stepped on their heads. Who would be able to tolerate this? Immediately, the Gu soldiers of the torture chamber gathered in the square. There were a total of 76 Gu soldiers. Each of them was fierce and ferocious. It wouldn't be a problem for them to kill gods and Buddhas. Chapter 10:19. When the ancient soldiers gathered, they were filled with killing intent. Gu Tianxing also ordered the vassal families to surround the Golden Sky Pavilion. The general of Golden Sky City, Meng Hao, was also paying attention to Li Zongjio's situation. After being threatened by Li Zongjio, Meng Hao felt extremely uneasy. Meng Hao knew that if Li Zongjio was still alive, he would definitely not be at ease. He had to see Li Zongjio die in front of him with his own eyes. Therefore, at this moment, he was constantly asking his subordinates to gather information. How is it? What's the situation now? Meng Hao couldn't help but ask. One of his subordinates had just returned and was impatient even before he could stand firm. The latest news is that Li Zongjio has taken over the Golden Sky Pavilion and captured the Gu family's 13th prince. Now, the Gu family has gathered the ancient soldiers and surrounded the Golden Sky Pavilion. The messenger said, "Good, that brat is courting death. The 13th prince is Gu Tianxing's grandson. If anything happens to him, that brat will definitely not be able to live." When he thought about how Li Zongjio would be dismembered by the Gu family's ancient soldiers, he felt incomparably delighted. He had to die. He had to die. Quick, continue to scout. If there's any situation, quickly report back. Meng Hao drank a mouthful of tea to calm himself down. At least for now, it seemed that Li Zongjio wouldn't have an easy time. Even the ancient soldiers had been mobilized. This was already a clear indication of the Gu family's attitude. Therefore, it was impossible to let this matter pass so easily. Golden Sky Pavilion. Some of the nearby shops had already closed their doors. However, there were some people who were interested and sent people to keep an eye on the Golden Heaven Pavilion. Among them were the people from the Thousand Taste Grass Hall. The people from the Thousand Taste Grass Hall didn't go to sell their own herbs. Instead, they were here to watch the battle in the Golden Sky Pavilion. Currently, everyone in the city knew that Li Zongjio from the Sacred Flame Imperial City's White Deer Manor had come. Was he coming to the Gu family to die, or was he here to announce his strength and status, to demonstrate his power? The #1 clan in the Jin province, the Gu clan, was actually provoked by a youth who was not even 20 years old. This scene was too exciting, and no one wanted to give up. He stared at them with wide eyes. This Li Zongjio in just 1 year has already reached such a powerful level. In the Thousand Flavors Grass Hall, a lady was elegantly brewing tea behind a curtain. When she heard the news, she glanced sideways. When she lifted the curtain, a pair of jet-black bright eyes were extremely dazzling. The trouble this guy is causing is getting bigger and bigger. I heard he's with the eldest daughter of the Qi family? The young girl twirled her long hair with her fingers. She turned around and opened the window, looking in the direction of the Golden Sky Tower. It made him hesitate. The young lady's footsteps were hesitant. Suddenly, she took advantage of the moment when the person behind her was not paying attention. With a light tap of her toes, her figure leaped forward. "Young miss, don't go." However, the young lady's movements were graceful, like a feather in the wind. With a light sway, she had already drifted far away, making it impossible for the maid behind her to catch up. "Quick, go and inform the chief that the young miss ran away again." In front of the Golden Sky Tower, a group of people had already sealed off the 3 surrounding streets, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. Gu Bingwei had also surrounded the Golden Sky Tower. However, they did not directly attack. If they allowed Li Zongjio to act out of desperation and kill them, it would not be worth it. For this operation, other than Gu Bingwei, the elders of the Gu family and the disciples of the Gu family had also come to watch. These people wanted to see what kind of person had the guts to come to the Gu family's territory and provoke them. There were also some disciples of the Gu family who wanted to see what would happen to Gu Zhiyuan. After all, the competition for resources between the disciples of the Gu family was quite intense. If Gu Zhiyuan died, it would be a very satisfying matter for them. At the very least, they would be able to get more resources. Many people were also hoping that Gu Tsueyuan would be killed. "Our young master has asked the person in charge to come in." The Liangshan brothers walked out and saw so many people in front of them. They were like an army that had sealed off the area. This lineup was serious. If Gu Zhiyuan was not in their hands, they would not have been able to escape. They reckoned that these people would have already killed their way here. "Elder, don't take the risk." Gu Tianxing naturally knew that he could not take the risk. He did not know what kind of tricks the other party had set up in the Golden Sky Tower and was waiting for Gu Tianxing to throw his life away. "Our young master said that once the person in charge comes, let that brat go," one of the Liangshan brothers said. Gu Tianxing, who was still hesitating, let down his guard at this moment. Ignoring the persuasion of the people around him, he directly raised his hand. "If I don't come out in 5 minutes, attack. No matter what, you must kill Li Zongjio. As for these people, chase them to the ends of the earth. Kill them all." Gu Tianxing said indifferently. These words were clearly said for the people in the Golden Sky Tower to hear. His goal was to intimidate them. Being surrounded by so many experts, it was impossible for them not to be nervous. It was impossible for them to escape unscathed. With the strength that the Gu family had gathered here, they could kill everyone in a matter of minutes. Not a single one of them would be able to escape. Therefore, these people were already dead. Right now, it was time to see how these people would struggle before death and what tricks they could play before absolute power. Elder, be careful. The command of the scene was handed over to the Gu family's fifth elder, Gu Xingyun. The fourth elder was wandering the world outside and was not in the family. The fifth elder Gu Xingyun watched as Gu Tianxing entered the Golden Sky Tower. He did not know why, but he had a bad premonition in his heart. Gu Tianxing entered the Golden Sky Tower. With a glance, he saw the heavily injured Gu Zhiyuan. However, Gu Tianxing was not in a hurry to show his concern. I've come as promised. Release my Gu family's disciple. Gu Tianxing's figure was tall and straight, and his gaze was arrogant. However, wherever his gaze passed, it was filled with silent ridicule and intimidation. He looked at the people in the surroundings as if they were already dead. Li Zongjio, don't blame my Gu family for not giving you a chance. As long as you hand over the inheritance fire seed, cripple your own cultivation, and kneel in front of my Gu family's gate for 7 days and 7 nights, my Gu family can let bygones be bygones. Gu Tianxing said. His words seemed to be extremely lenient and benevolent towards Li Zongjio. Chapter 10:20. Gu Tianxing clasped his hands behind his back and turned around, as if waiting for Li Zongjio to kneel over. Look, I told you that these people are very arrogant. Young man, I'm not bullying you. You saw it for yourself, so you can't blame me. Li Zongjio spoke kindly to Gu Zhiyuan, who was beside him. Gu Zhiyuan was lifted up. When he heard Gu Tianxing's words, he widened his eyes and shook his head repeatedly, as if he was trying his best to stop Gu Tianxing. However, Gu Tianxing secretly gave Gu Zhiyuan a reassuring look. In fact, Li Zongjio had already made a bet with Gu Zhiyuan before Gu Tianxing had come in. If Gu Tianxing had spoken nicely and not threatened Luo Yunyang and put on airs, Luo Yunyang would have let Gu Zhiyuan go immediately. However, if Gu Tianxing had only threatened Luo Yunyang, Li Zongjio would have had no choice but to remove some things from Gu Zhiyuan's body. Remove one of his legs first. Li Zongjio was kind enough to order his loyal subordinate, Kuan Erasher, to use the Kuan winged spear in his hands to chop off Gu Zhiyuan's right leg. Fresh blood splattered on the floor. It was rather gory and eye-catching. Gu Tianxing had not expected that Li Zongjio would actually dare to take this seriously and chop off Gu Zhiyuan's leg right in front of Gu Tianxing's face. You must have a death wish. Li Zongjio, do you want the Li family to suffer a calamity? Gu Tianxing pointed at Li Zongjio angrily and roared. This was his biological grandson. He had raised him up with great difficulty, yet one of his legs had been chopped off. This leg was basically crippled. Gu Zhiyuan's mouth was gagged, so he could only mumble and struggle. Eventually, he fell to the ground and fainted. He could not even withstand the pain of losing a leg. It was a wonder how this Yuan monarch had managed to cultivate to this level. This group of people brought by Li Zongjio was basically a group of people who had been through countless life and death struggles. They had killed countless experts of the same level, and even some who were stronger. This was the reason why they were able to stand here today. The suffering they had suffered and the pain they had experienced was not something that could be resolved with a mere broken leg. Thus, when they saw that Gu Zhiyuan had actually fainted from the pain, they were extremely disdainful. At this moment, facing the large-scale attack of the Gu family, if he wanted to ensure his survival, he could not be weak. It was as if he was facing a pack of starving tigers and wolves, ready to pounce and tear him to shreds at any time. If you think of running away at this time, you will only encourage these wild beasts. Oh, you still dare to threaten me? Old thing, don't you understand the situation? Li Zongjio's fingers twitched. Kuan Erasher understood and chopped off Gu Zhiyuan's other leg. This caused Gu Zhiyuan, who had been unconscious, to flip over and get up. Woo-woo. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and he was covered in cold sweat. The veins on his neck were bulging. Why didn't he just kill him? Why did he have to endure such pain? He had only met a girl in this room to study some Yuan skills. Why had he suffered such a calamity? Li Zongjio. Gu Tianxing pointed at Li Zongjio and was about to curse. However, when he thought about how this was his grandson, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. At the moment, Gu Tianxing could only extend a trembling finger and point at Li Zongjio. He did not dare say anything too extreme for fear of angering Li Zongjio. Kneel. Li Zongjio crossed his legs and looked indifferently at Gu Tianxing. At that moment, Gu Tianxing had gone from being the third elder of the Gu family to being a powerless old man. This was all for the sake of allowing Gu Zhiyuan to live. The shopkeeper, who was hiding behind the counter, also quietly poked his head out and watched this scene. Although Gu Tianxing clenched his fists and trembled all over, he lowered his head. He wanted to kneel, but he could not. I know you won't kneel, and I don't intend to make you kneel. Take his head. Kuan Erasher expressionlessly chopped off Gu Zhiyuan's head. When Gu Tianxing saw this, he immediately roared at the sky in an unbridled manner. Gu Zhiyuan's head rolled in front of Gu Tianxing. Gu Tianxing did not hesitate to pick up the head, not even caring that he was covered in blood. Don't even think about leaving Sky Gold City alive. That's what I said. Gu Tianxing stood up in shock. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying aura erupted from Gu Tianxing's body as the power surged out. It was as if a terrifying wave had been set off in the entire inn. Boom! Li Zongjio's figure flashed and punched Gu Tianxing's head. On the spot, Gu Tianxing was sent flying. Boom! Gu Tianxing held Gu Zhiyuan's head and landed in the middle of the Gu soldiers. Protect the third elder. Gu Xingyun, the fifth elder, roared angrily. Take these people down. The 78 Gu soldiers roared in unison. The entire Sky Gold Inn was about to collapse. These 78 people were all at the Yuan King realm. Moreover, the few commanders leading them were all Yuan King realm experts. Black Dragon Hammer. Li Zongjio leaped with the Black Dragon Hammer in his hand and smashed it down on the 78 Gu soldiers. Boom! The violent power of lightning surged out crazily. The Gu soldiers in front of him were instantly enveloped by the power of lightning. The entire Sky Gold Inn seemed to be illuminated by the lightning. The sky was bright. None of the Gu soldiers cried out in pain. This was because their bodies were stiff and numb under the terrifying electric current. The lightning lasted for close to 10 breaths of time. The terrifying lightning pool formed by the power of lightning made it so that no one dared to approach it. They could only watch from afar. Even Gu Xingyun and the others were retreating rapidly, involuntarily releasing their yuan power. The first thing they were thinking about was how to block the lightning and not be engulfed by it. Boom! The last ray of light disappeared. 78 figures of the ancient guards fell to the ground like human-shaped charcoal. Dozens of bangs sounded as they fell to the ground. A large number of charred corpses appeared in front of the crowd. Among them were the corpses of 3 Yuan King realm experts. And the one who had caused all these injuries was the young man with the hammer. Just looking at this scene sent chills down one's spine. It was your Gu family who provoked me first. Now, it's reasonable for me to destroy your entire family. Li Zongjio spread his hands in disdain. It was as if Li Zongjio was the real victim in this battle. He was the one who was at a disadvantage. Anyone who saw this would have the urge to strangle Li Zongjio to death. However, there were still hundreds of people gathered at the scene. They did not dare to move at all because they were shocked by the 78 corpses. Not a single one of them was left alive. Instant kill. This is the power of the evil lord. One Yulan was shocked when she saw Li Zongjio using the hammer again. Chapter 1021. The power of this hammer had only been displayed in the Haiku dynasty. He believed that the people of the Black Canal Royal City would be able to remember the hammer of the evil dominator. Now they were in the Xingyan dynasty. These people did not recognize the hammer of the evil lord. Hence, such a scene occurred. After the light disappeared, they saw Li Zongjio standing in the darkness with a small black hammer in his hand. Not to mention the enemy, even the people of the White Deer Manor standing behind Li Zongjio were shocked. When they saw this scene, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Some people were prepared to fight, and when the situation turned bad, they would just surrender. After all, they were just doing things for money. These people from the Gu family might not be so ruthless. Large families like this cared a lot about their reputation. However, they did not expect Li Zongjio to kill the Gu family's painstakingly nurtured Gu soldiers in an instant. The reputation of the torture hall was basically built up by these Gu soldiers. The senior disciples of the Gu family were all dumbfounded. The dozens of corpses in front of them were still relatively intact. Even their positions had not been moved. The entire Gu soldier troop was neat and tidy. It was extremely shocking. These were specially nurtured by the Gu family. They were able to achieve their current status because of these Gu soldiers. Now, they were all killed in an instant. It felt like a dream. Everyone, Li Zongjio, only came to Skygold City for a vacation. First, I was attacked by dozens of unknown experts outside the city. Now, I want to stay in the city, but I was repeatedly humiliated by that brat from the Gu family. Not only that, the Gu family even sent people here to kill me. Since that's the case, there's nothing more to say. Li Zongjio's voice spread throughout the city. Almost every corner of the city could hear it clearly. Li Zongjio's words sounded like a person who had been oppressed for a long time and finally couldn't help but fight back at this moment. Some of the bystanders who didn't know the situation naturally didn't know the situation because Li Zongjio had really suffered so much injustice. However, the members of the Gu family could only secretly curse him for being despicable and shameless. It had always been Li Zongjio who provoked him first. Come to Heavenly Gold City for sightseeing? When have you ever seen someone bring so many top-notch experts out to play? After Li Zongjio spoke, he did not give the members of the Gu family much time to react. The people behind him had already pounced forward like a pack of hungry wolves, directly attacking the people in front of them. Retreat! Gu Xingyun shouted in a low voice. At this moment, the Gu clan's momentum had completely collapsed. The remaining forces were unable to resist Li Zongjio, so they had to withdraw their forces first. The Gu family fought as they retreated. Very quickly, they directly hid in the Gu family. The gates of the Gu family were tightly shut. Li Zongjio and the others did not directly attack the headquarters of the Gu family. However, at this moment, a loud roar suddenly came from the sky. Soon after, a pitch-black figure flashed across the sky above the Gu family at an extremely fast speed. What's that? The sudden loud vibration made the people who had just returned to the Gu family to defend the Gu family puzzled. Something seems to have fallen. Someone pointed to the sky. They saw something that looked like a water bucket falling directly toward the courtyard of the Gu family. Stop that thing! Although Gu Xingyun didn't know what it was, his intuition told him that it was definitely not something good. Furthermore, it was something extremely dangerous. Immediately, a Yuan monarch guard rose into the air and slashed in the direction of the water bucket from dozens of meters away. The saber aura collided with the water bucket. Immediately, a dark red ray of light burst out. Boom! In an instant, all the buildings in the Gu family's courtyard seemed to have been uniformly chopped off. Countless bricks and stones flew out. He continued to attack in the distance. Many disciples of the Gu family were on the verge of fainting after experiencing this terrifying explosion. Coupled with the attack of these stones, they all spat out mouthfuls of blood and were quickly sent flying. The entire Gu clan was in chaos. It was as if a meteor had fallen into the Gu clan. The tremors that were set off caused the floor of the Gu clan to be completely overturned. Just the aftermath alone was enough to cause the outer walls of the Sky Gold Tower to crack. The Gu family's residence was filled with dust and thick smoke that filled the sky. The Gu family had been bombed. The Gu family, which had dominated the Jin region for many years, had their headquarters bombed. That explosion alone had killed many of the Gu family's elites. It was very difficult for anyone below the Yuan monarch level to survive such a powerful explosion. Benevolence? Being benevolent to the enemy was being cruel to oneself. It was clear that Li Zongjio had a very thorough grasp of this kind of simple logic. Qi Yanran, on the other hand, frowned. However, she did not say anything. The weak were prey to the strong. Qi Yanran was also clear about this. Furthermore, everyone knew about the Gu family's morals. If they were not strong enough today, the Gu family would not have let them go so easily. It was impossible to leave this place alive. If one wanted to avoid the disputes in this chaotic world, the only way was to cultivate to the highest level and not provoke others. Otherwise, one would never be able to stay out of trouble. Therefore, Qi Yanran was relieved. In this world, no one was innocent. Even if Qi Yanran was killed that day, she would naturally accept her fate, because this was her fate. She was not as good as others, so it was like this. In Meng Mansion. Previously, someone had reported that Li Zongjio had already met the Gu guards. It seemed like a fight would break out at any time. However, in less than a minute, someone immediately came to report that Li Zongjio had killed all the Gu guards by himself. Fuck you. Do you think I'm a fool? Meng Hao kicked the soldier who came to report and sent him flying. Did he really think that Meng Hao was an idiot? Did he think that dozens of Gu guards were easy to deal with? The person who was sent flying felt very wronged. It was true. Why did the general not believe it? Sir, this is bad. The Gu family killed Li Zongjio? No, the Gu family. The Gu family was blown up. Blown up? Meng Hao was stunned. What kind of operation was this? How did Li Zongjio do it? To be able to blow up the Gu family, it must mean that Li Zongjio had the upper hand. Could it be that this guy actually defeated the Gu clan? Meng Hao swallowed hard. It was not hard to imagine that if Li Zongjio really defeated the Gu family, Meng Hao would definitely die. People like Li Zongjio would always do what he said. Impossible. The Gu family has been in Jin province for so many years. How could they only have this little ability? The Gu family head has not even made a move yet. You guys, forget it. I'll go check it out myself. Chapter 1022. The huge explosion just now had alarmed the entire Skygold City. Of course, it also included the people who were still in Skygold City. Those who were originally on the Gu family's side also quietly retreated and sent people to keep an eye on the situation. Now, it seemed that Li Zongjio had the upper hand. But in reality, Li Zongjio had hastened his own death. Li Zongjio's actions would definitely enrage the Gu family. Of course, this included the Gu family's expert who had just broken through to the sovereign realm. Just you wait, this kid is dead. That's a sovereign realm expert. Did he think that he was bragging? He really exists. Under normal circumstances, even primitive emperors rarely appeared. Even in the current Gu family, there weren't many primitive emperors. Now, so many of them had been killed by Li Zongjio. Hence, they were even rarer. Not to mention supreme being experts, he had never even heard of them before. Unless Li Zongjio was prepared to face a sovereign realm expert. Otherwise, his actions just now were already a death sentence for himself. Li Zongjio and the others didn't go in to admire the miserable state of the Gu family. On the contrary, the dust that filled the Gu family had completely stopped at this moment. It was as if there was a force that had brushed the dust away. At the same time, the injured people of the Gu family were injected with a different force. With the injection of this force, the people of the Gu family became more energetic. At this moment, they seemed to be full of vitality. Originally, they were all depressed and lifeless. But at this moment, they were all gone. With the appearance of this force, they immediately widened their eyes. Family head. An injured disciple of the Gu family sat on a rock. Originally, he was incomparably afraid and disheartened after experiencing such a huge disaster. But when this force hit him, he immediately felt hope. It's the power of the family head. The pain of the injuries on his body also rapidly weakened. Moreover, this force was rapidly helping him to recover from his injuries. Originally, his internal organs were directly pierced by a piece of gravel, but now they were recovering easily. Many of them had suffered fatal injuries and were on the verge of death. At this moment, all of them were gradually recovering their vitality. At this moment, it was as if a god was healing them. And the only one who could do this was their omnipotent patriarch. Ancient firmament. Yes, patriarch. Patriarch has come out of seclusion. The patriarch has finally come out of seclusion. When they felt the power of Gu Tsongten, Gu Xingyun and the rest were so agitated that their eyes were brimming with hot tears. This disaster had come too suddenly even though they had made preparations in advance. But he still didn't expect it. This kind of power actually came so quickly. They were simply caught off guard. Suddenly, a beam of light descended from the dark sky. Everyone in every corner of Heavenly Gold City was able to see these signs clearly. Could it be that the master of the Gu family was about to ascend to immortality? When he saw that the other party had such means, Qi Yanran's heart sank. Everyone was nervous at this moment. How could they not be? A supreme martial artist. Within the strong light, 3 figures appeared. They were the great elder and second elder of the Gu family, as well as the patriarch of the Gu family, Gu Ting'an. You haven't even stabilized your realm and you're already putting on airs here. Li Zongjio said in disdain at this critical moment that was suffocating. Then he charged out with the black dragon hammer in his hand. All of you, stay where you are and protect Yanran. After Li Zongjio said this sentence, his body soared into the sky. He charged towards Gu Zongtian. In the face of such a godlike existence, he actually dared to take the initiative to attack. If Li Zongjio really fell in Heavenly Gold City today, it would definitely become a legend in the future. A newborn calf isn't afraid of a tiger. To dare to charge towards a supreme martial artist, Li Zongjio's name is enough to be known by everyone. It's a pity. For such a genius, even the heavens wouldn't let him live. Some people shook their heads and said, obviously, they understood Li Zongjio's fate. The heavens were jealous of geniuses. Otherwise, how could there be so few experts in the world? Gu Zongtian casually healed the hundreds of injured members of the Gu family. Although the Gu family was now in such a miserable state, Gu Zongtian didn't have any psychological fluctuations. As long as he was around, the Gu family wouldn't be destroyed. Naturally, he didn't have to worry. The future of the Gu family never rested on these people. It rested on him, Gu Zongtian. However, when Gu Zongtian appeared, someone actually dashed towards him. This angered him. This angered Gu Zongtian. Just a mortal. Kill him. Gu Zongtian said. He was still bathing in the saint light and enjoying the worship from the people in Heavenly Gold City. The first elder and second elder of the Gu clan beside him also took action simultaneously. Even if Gu Zongtian didn't take action, the 2 elders still combined forces. In an instant, the wind howled and the black wind blew. Like tens of thousands of flying swords, they slashed towards Li Zongjio. Hidden dragon art. Li Zongjio's figure instantly entered a state of ethereal nothingness. The great elder and second elder of the Gu family were respectively grade 9 and grade 8 origin emperors. Usually, they were in a state of seclusion. It was because the Gu family had so many experts that they were able to have such absolute authority in Jin region. Even the royal family of the Xingyan dynasty had always maintained a soft policy towards the Gu family. If they were to touch the Gu family, it would definitely be an extremely dangerous matter. What the Xingyan dynasty needed now was stability. Since it could be stabilized, it would temporarily leave this threat here. At the same time, it would also serve as a warning to the nobles in the royal family. If the royal family was in a peaceful state, it would be difficult to reignite their fighting spirit once they lost their competitiveness. If they were to maintain a state of alertness, they would naturally be able to maintain their fighting strength. This way, the royal family wouldn't decline so quickly. When Li Zongjio's figure disappeared in front of them, the 2 of them also had a bad feeling in their hearts. In order to ensure absolute safety, the 2 of them immediately released the power of a top-notch origin emperor expert. Suddenly, 2 powerful waves of air spread out in all directions. Is that all you've got? Originally, they wanted to force Li Zongjio's figure to appear. However, Li Zongjio's figure suddenly appeared in front of the Great Elder. Ancient extermination palm. The Great Elder didn't panic at all. So what if he appeared and disappeared unpredictably? If he dared to appear, he would directly kill him without holding back. Waves of annihilation chi wrapped Li Zongjio. At the same time, Li Zongjio swung his hammer at the Great Elder. From this hammer, something seemed to have erupted. A pitch-black dragon claw directly grabbed the Great Elder's head. Boom! The Great Elder's head was instantly blasted apart. Blood splattered in the sky. Li Zongjio also withstood the opponent's ancient extermination palm. All the power was absorbed by Li Zongjio's body. The ancient golden body art was activated and dissolved all the power of the opponent. A golden tattoo was faintly visible on Li Zongjio's body. Huh! Seeing this scene, the second elder also opened his eyes wide. Ancient extermination palm. The second elder hurriedly activated his move. Obviously, he could see that Li Zongjio was digesting the power just now. However, this boss died just like that? The second elder was a little confused. Chapter 1023. Second elder also struck Li Zongjio with his palm. However, Li Zongjio did not move at all. Instead, a terrifying aura was emitted from Li Zongjio's body. It rushed to the front of second elder and enveloped him. At this moment, second elder's body seemed to have been dragged into a strange space. The space was filled with blood qi. The blood qi drowned second elder completely, as though he was soaked in a pool of blood. Looking at the situation, Gu Zongtian could not believe that Li Zongjio had taken care of the first elder so easily. Looking at how the second elder was about to be crippled, he waved his hand gently and a surge of energy pulled the second elder back. He broke free from Li Zongjio's power. At the same time, he pushed Li Zongjio with his palm. It looked like a gentle palm, but one could see that the space in front of him was shattering inch by inch. It was like a terrifying meta-beast that was shattering the space in front of him. Finally, it rushed to Li Zongjio and tried to devour Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio raised his hand and punched out. Boom! The shattered space finally stabilized. After the power was stabilized, Gu Zongtian seemed to be a little impatient. Second elder had broken free, but his body was suspended in midair. It was as though he had lost his soul. Courting death. The supreme aura instantly attacked Li Zongjio. It had been a long time since he had felt the supreme aura. Even when he came into contact with it, it was still so familiar. Li Zongjio merely waved his sleeves slightly, and a terrifying energy swept out. It was as if a level 10 hurricane had swept across the place, completely trapping Li Zongjio within it. Fortunately, the black dragon hammer in his hand released a force that protected Li Zongjio. Hence, he was not crushed by the strong wind. To kill you, I only need to blow a breath. An illusory figure appeared behind Gu Zongtian. It gradually enlarged like a reincarnated Buddha. He blew a breath at Li Zongjio. Supreme aura. Li Zongjio saw the breath that Gu Zongtian blew out, turning into a powerful sword that charged towards him. I've never used this move before. Thunderous force. The black dragon hammer summoned the dark clouds in the sky and they immediately formed thunderbolts that struck down towards Gu Zongtian. The energy sword instantly hit Li Zongjio's body. Boom! Li Zongjio's entire body was sent flying. But at the same time, the thunderbolts continued to strike down towards Gu Zongtian. It forcefully shattered the illusionary figure that Gu Zongtian had conjured to show off. The golden body that he had painstakingly released was actually destroyed by a mortal ant like Li Zongjio. The thunderbolts that fell down were neither painful nor ticklish to him, but he had no choice but to avoid these thunderbolts. His supreme aura had just stabilized and the thunderbolts were unusually ferocious. If the supreme aura that he had nurtured for a long time was destroyed, he would have to spend a few years to nurture this aura. Courting death. Gu Zongtian took a step forward. But this step crossed a distance of a few thousand meters and he chased after Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio followed the energy sword. His body appeared tens of thousands of meters away. In the eyes of outsiders, Li Zongjio was trying to escape. Gu Zongtian immediately chased after him. In the eyes of others, Li Zongjio's body had already disappeared into the horizon. But in actual fact, in Gu Zongtian's eyes, Li Zongjio was like a flame in a pitch-black environment. No matter where he hid, there was nowhere to hide. He easily locked onto Li Zongjio's position. The two of them rushed out of the city and instantly disappeared. Qi Yanran and the rest were extremely anxious when they saw this. Where did they go? Can you find them? Qi Yanran looked at Wan Yulan who was beside her. Others found it hard to believe that Wan Yulan in front of them was actually a level 6 spirit master. Her mental strength was enough to sweep through mountains and rivers. Let me find them. Wan Yulan immediately released her mental strength. But after a short while, she kept it back. No, the influence here is too strong. My mental strength can't detect anything. Wan Yulan said. The main reason was that the Supreme Being's aura was lingering around here. If Wan Yulan used her mental strength, it would be easily crushed. Once it was crushed, the situation wouldn't be good. Kill these people. Gu Xingyun stood up and shouted. The family head had already gone to deal with Li Zongjiu. Without Li Zongjiu, the people in front of them were undoubtedly courting death if they wanted to go against the Gu family. They couldn't wait for the family head to come back and deal with these people. Gu Xingyun couldn't wait to kill these people in front of him. They caused the Gu family to suffer such heavy losses. He had to capture these people and kill them as a sacrifice to the heavens. People of Skygold City, listen up. Kill one and you will be rewarded. Gu Xingyun roared. These words were obviously meant for the big families in the city. The Gu family didn't restrict the growth of these families. Anyway, no matter how they grew, it was impossible for them to surpass the Gu family. I'll just let you guys develop on your own. At the critical moment, the forces that you've developed will also occasionally become the Gu clan's hired force. So, why not? Therefore, the people of the surrounding families were waiting for an opportunity to take action. They didn't hesitate anymore. This was a good opportunity to perform meritorious deeds. If they performed meritorious deeds now, they would definitely become good friends in the eyes of the Gu family. With just a word, their business in the entire Jin region would be opened. Fight. As Li Zongjiu's woman, Qi Yanran's heroism wasn't any worse than Li Zongjiu's. Facing the siege of at least a dozen families, Qi Yanran held the desolate heaven essence in her hand. White light flickered and she looked majestic. An primitive emperor took the lead and charged towards Qi Yanran. He could naturally see that Qi Yanran was only in the Yuan King realm. Moreover, she was the second brain of these people. Taking her down would be enough to restrict these people. However, before this primitive emperor could get close to Li Zongjiu, he suddenly stopped. Wan Yulan acutely felt that there seemed to be an unusual aura in the surroundings. The head of that primitive emperor fell to the ground. At the same time, blood gushed out from the broken neck like a fountain. What? The appearance of this scene immediately shocked Wan Yulan and Qi Yanran. How could they be at ease when such a strange scene appeared? Another head fell to the ground. Fifth Elder. The disciples of the Gu family exclaimed. The one who died this time was actually Gu Xingyun. Gu Xingyun's head rolled on the ground. There was no pain or shock in his eyes, as if he was in a normal state. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.